Level checks and everything too. Make sure everybody's in the mic. I gotta wake up.
Yeah,
I got tired there. I almost fell asleep. Sophie to the rescue. Did you see what Hannah did? She made these.
What? The sleeves?
Could you pass that? Yeah.
Sorry, it's a little water. It was too powdery. I did the tiniest bit of water and I tasted it.
As long as the energizing chemicals are in it,
Thank you.
We should be good.
Enjoy yourself. I think that matters.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Welcome to the show. I'm Dad.
Jack.
Will.
And Mike.
And the special guest, we have Mike. Yes. Now the question for everybody listening is, we're concerned that Will's voice and Mike's voice are too similar. So at different points in the show, if you're listening to this on YouTube, make sure that you put into the comment whether you think it's Will or Mike. And then and we'll respond to those and let you know if you're right or wrong.
Yeah.
So put the time.
Might get confusing.
Put the time and whether you think it's Will or Mike, and then we'll let you know.
Should we give a 1-for-1 so they can have a baseline?
All right, so that's Mike.
This is Will.
And then go Mike.
This is me.
Okay. Wow, it's gonna be interesting.
I think it's kind of close.
Yeah, I do too.
It sounds like me on the other side. I'm worried.
Okay, I'm gonna close my eyes. Go ahead. Somebody go.
This is Will.
No, it's not as much.
Okay.
All right. But I just know you so well, so
That's true.
maybe it is.
That's true.
But on the mic, Mike does sound a lot like...
You're really good at lip reading, Mike.
Yeah. I have years of practice.
Yeah, that's true. Deduction.
All right. So welcome back, Will and Hannah and Mike went to Florida, which is why we didn't drop a show earlier. How was your trip?
Oh, it was great. I'm not going to speak for Mike and Hannah, but I had a blast. I haven't been to Florida since... seventh grade, I want to say. So it's
wow, really?
Yeah, it's been a long time. I haven't seen Nana and Pop since they came to our house in Keller for like a couple days, and I saw them like a day when
That's
they were
when
there.
we went to Spain. Well, no, that was Grandma and Grandpa. That was
Uncle John came and he blessed the house.
Uncle
That's
John,
right.
Uncle John was there too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had a great time with Uncle John. I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, what did you think, Mike? Did you have a good time?
Yeah, I had a great time. It was really fun.
Mike goes every year, at least twice a year.
Yes.
No, Mike does go.
Yes.
Like the last couple of years, he's been there. Yeah. Exactly.
It's like, I think this was my 4th or 5th year in a row going.
Yeah, he goes
making a tradition
all the time.
Why not?
Yeah, it was great though. We did some kayaking. Went to the beach. Don't worry, it was a private beach, so there was nobody there but us. Which is actually kind of cool because Uncle Joe has a friend. I guess he kayaks with him or something. Fishing buddy. I don't know.
That's a different
This
person.
guy does not look like a doctor if I had to pin on it. Yeah.
Oh, no, that one doctor does own the boat.
Yeah,
me
and Uncle Joe went one time like 10 years ago. Right. And we went, we did a bunch of different activities.
Without disclosing exactly where this is in Florida, it's somewhere on the Gulf Coast. We'll just say that. And yeah, this guy it's a rather large boat. I mean, it's not a yacht, but it's a good sized fishing boat.
Oh, the one that was in Colorado?
Yes, he's the doctor that moves to Colorado.
And he has like the really nice crow's nest.
Yes.
Gotcha, yes. I know you're talking about. I've met him. I know you're talking about. We talk about him a lot.
Okay.
With Uncle Joe. Yeah, we did some kayaking. We did a good amount of fishing. Unfortunately, though, redfish, was it trout and snook?
Yeah.
Where you can't keep them because
none at all. Out of season?
No. Well, yeah, but out of season, kind of not permanently, but until further notice, because the red tide 2 years ago just decimated their populations, so they're trying to recover them. So there's a ban. Yeah. Unfortunately, because redfish is my favorite fish. So it was okay though.
I guess you can go catch and release with them, but what's the fun in that?
Well, catching and releasing.
Yeah,
that's what's supposed to be fun.
The fight's fun.
Yeah, because a snook is a good fight, isn't it?
Oh, I didn't catch any snook, but the way Uncle Joe describes it to me is they just like whack your hook and then just start taking off, and then you have to let them go until they tire themselves out for a second. Then you start reeling and let them go and reeling.
Snook are all like bass in the way they don't really have teeth, so they have to eat it whole or not at all. So they do just kind of go all in on a piece.
That is the one time that you can actually keep the snook, because if it's in their stomach, they're gonna die. If the hook's like gonna kill them.
So is there a way to make sure that happens every time?
Yeah.
Guarantee a hook swallow. You're a good fishing guide if you can guarantee a hook swallow.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, we caught, I want to say 6 sheep's head, which I've never caught or seen a sheep's head before this trip.
Right.
And they have like little baby human teeth.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
It's so that was really weird. I was like, this looks photoshopped.
Did you eat those?
Yeah,
Yes.
they were really good. And then we got a drum the same day, and
a snapper.
I always forget what it's called. A mango snapper.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. I'm probably wrong about that.
Mangrove snapper?
Yeah,
No, mango. Starts with an M.
something. Like
A Manhire snapper.
Yeah, exactly. It was good though. They were all really good. I liked them all. Hannah only liked the sheep's head. She didn't like the drum. Drum was a little too fishy for her. I caught the drum, which was probably the biggest one. I'm not trying to gloat. It was a good.
Happened to be the biggest one.
Yeah, it was a good sized fish, and then we each caught a couple sheep's head, which was nice. It made for a pretty good fish fry. We had it for dinner.
It's pretty cool.
And Sophie caught a lot of catfish. She was the kitty cat trash can thing, is what Uncle Joe called her, because she just kept catching catfish, which you can't. Apparently, you're not supposed to eat saltwater cats.
Yeah, I heard there's not as
really?
good. Oh, you can eat them, but
Yeah.
I don't. Maybe it's also because living in Florida, you have a lot better selection. So why eat the trashy fish when you can eat other fish? But a lot of people frown upon eating catfish there.
Yeah, like not like you can't like take them or anything. It's just every time we caught one, I was like, "That's a good sized catfish. Can we keep that?" He's like, "No." And he's like, I'm the captain. I decide what we keep. And I'm like, all right.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was being a goof, but I did get a lot of sea urchins though. And don't worry, because what I was doing was we were fishing in the bay one day, and so it's like really shallow. We were kind of on a sandbar area, and there's a lot of seagrass around it. So I was like, Uncle Joe, like, yeah, you can just go walk in the seagrass really light-footed, and you'll just start finding some cool stuff. He's like, nothing should kill you out there. You'll be fine. So I'm walking around in the seagrass, kind of like light, stepping through the grass. And first off, I probably got and had to throw back because I got so many, like hundreds of hermit crabs, hundreds of them. Like it was like handfuls I would pull out of the water, and there's hermit crabs.
Like actual hermit crabs, not horseshoe crabs. Hermit crabs.
Hermit crabs.
Really?
Crazy amount of them. Crazy amount of them. Like I was just like, because at first it's like, oh my gosh, a hermit crab. Oh my gosh, another hermit crab. Then I'm like, oh my gosh, a hermit crab. Do it over my shoulder. And I found a couple of spider crabs, which are really, I've never seen a spider crab before.
Are they big?
Man, they're like, I don't know.
It is bizarre.
They're like, I don't know how to describe how big they are, but they're decent sized. Not like, you don't eat them. And they just have these super long legs, but their body is almost like circular. It's like oblong, circular. Okay. And they're really weird looking, and they have these super long legs. So they look really spidery.
Right.
And that was kind of cool.
I think I've seen a version of that on the Deadliest Catch when that was back on, when the Alaska fishermen, there was a spider crab season that they would go out. But of course, the Alaskan ones are gigantic.
Oh yeah,
they're just these huge things. But they're like round bodies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're like an orb or something like that.
I got a couple of those, and then
I got
a
nice color, but this more
a ton of sea urchins too. And these were the kind that are non-venomous. So like if you step on them, you're fine. They're not even that sharp. Like you're not going to puncture yourself just grabbing a sea urchin. Because there was like those black ones in like Hawaii and stuff that can like.
Oh, really?
Really mess you up if you step on them. They get the whole spine in your foot, and you have to get like a doctor to pull out a giant spine. Oh, okay. And they're some of them are venomous, and they can really mess you up. But these were fine. They were like, have you ever seen those like balls? They're kind of inflated. They got little like the ones Dom used to catch, not catch, but used to get in that Joe's Pizza back in Virginia.
Spike balls.
Yeah, those kind of things. The inflatable spike balls. They look like that. And they have like a beak on the bottom of them, like an octopus or something like that. It's kind of weird.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was just picking up tons and tons of those, and I really wanted to eat them, but
sea urchin.
Yeah, the sea urchins. I was like,
you can just eat those raw, right?
Yeah,
you just cut them open.
Cut them open, and you just scoop out. So you're actually eating the gonads, which is interesting. Because that's the only like meat they have.
Sea urchin lamb fries.
Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to be a delicacy.
Did you find out?
No, I didn't get to eat them. So this is what happened. We were same day. I had probably 10 of them that I kept because I found too many. I was like, okay, no, sea urchin, throw it over my shoulder.
Right.
So I had 10 of them in the bait well or whatever, the catch well. And towards the end, we were taking all this stuff out to kind of like see what we wanted to keep, what we wanted to throw back because we weren't going to keep the hermit crabs or anything like that. So I'm standing on the boat and I'm just kind of fishing, last cast kind of thing, and I get a shark on the line. What kind of shark was it?
I have no clue.
What's one? What? Bonnethead.
Oh, a bonnethead?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Those are good. It's a nice catch.
Yeah.
So, at least on my fishing game.
Yeah.
The ones bonnetheads are good.
So I'm reeling it in. It's really fighting because at first we thought it was a snook, but Uncle Joe ended up seeing it. He's like, oh, no, it's a bonnethead shark. Big fight. So I'm going around the entire boat, like and we had them all out on the side of the boat because we were inventorying what we got, and it was one of those things where we just had to like throw them all in the water real quick so I didn't step on them while I was like fighting this bonnethead. But the unfortunate part is I didn't get the bonnethead because the bonnethead bit the line right, like he was about to surface. I was like probably 5 feet from the boat. He was about to surface and just bites the line off and cuts it and lost all my sea urchins.
No urchins, no shark.
No.
And I hear, Hannah, you had no shells after that was a disappointing. I heard that was a disappointing story too.
Oh, that was a different one.
Yeah, okay.
That was the kayak.
Hannah had collected shells on that kayak, and then they all fell off magically.
I guess so. We were. You can talk about Irma Pass a little bit, Mike. I don't want to be the only one talking right now. If you want to tell a story about Irma Pass, and then we'll get to why all the shells went missing.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why you tipped, but I loved Irma.
You gave it away right there. There you
go. Irma Pass was really cool. It was more of a beach just leading over to the Gulf, but it wasn't really off a road.
First, tell them what Irma Pass is.
Oh, Irma Pass is...
Yeah, it's a pretty cool story.
Isn't it from Hurricane Irma? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when it came through Florida, it opened up this gap.
So there's an island, if you don't mind. There's an island. There's a big island, from the coast, like stopping the coastal and the intercoastal, like in between, and it was a big barrier island. And Hurricane Irma a couple of years ago just ripped through it, and now there's this place called Irma Pass because now it's 2 islands, and there's just pretty giant cut in between it.
Gotcha.
And you can kayak out to it, and it's pretty cool. But go back.
I'd say it's probably about a 15-minute. Well, wherever we put in as, which I'm not sure quite where it was. It was about a 15-minute kayak.
It was 45
each way.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I know.
Wow. Like 15?
Dude, it went by so quick.
Wow.
It was 45.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That is cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, as you're paddling down there's a lot of like smaller mangrove islands. Aren't islands, but mangrove patches.
Islands, I call them that.
And there's like cutouts or tunnels going through them. So we like pop in a tunnel, and then you're kayaking through this really narrow, just mangroves everywhere.
Yeah, we have some pictures we can probably put into this. So
I'll try to put it on top on the YouTube version. Yeah. But so the one thing on the intro, Will, I have you. There's a picture of you, and you're standing in the waist deep, and you have a horseshoe crab.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
That you pulled up. Is that the same seagrass adventure?
That was the
kayaking.
Seagrass adventure number 2 in Irma Pass.
Yes. Gotcha. Which leads us to the shell incident.
Yes. So first
Hannah shell incident.
First, really another cool part of Irma Pass. So there's a ton of these mangrove islands in this like Bay Area, intercoastal area, excuse me, and dolphins like to go and hunt in there for snook because they pin them against the island, against the trees, and smack them up. So we saw a couple of them out in the distance, and we were paddling over to Irma Pass, and we saw 2 of them that were not too far from us, maybe like 100 meters out or 100 yards out or something like that. So we paddle over there and kind of disturb their fishing, but one of them like smacks a snook like high into the air and then like goes and eats it, which was pretty cool. But then they noticed we're there, and me and Hannah in a kayak and Mike and Sophie in a kayak and Uncle Joe in his own kayak, and we're probably about like 15 feet apart. 15,
yeah, you and
20,
me are,
yeah, between the 2 kayaks. And so the dolphins, they see us and they come right between our 2 kayaks, like touching distance.
Wow,
which was really close I've ever been to a dolphin. Yeah. And they swim off and go hunt somewhere else, which was pretty awesome.
I've been in the water with a dolphin before.
Yeah, go ahead and tell that story.
So I was probably about 15, and we were me and Joe were doing the tubing off the back of this doctor's boat.
Oh yeah,
in the Gulf, And so Uncle Joe and this doctor, he's trying to flip us purposely. So we're just kind of like playing rodeo with it
2 days ago. Yeah.
And so I got flipped off, and I was just waiting for the boat to come back around. And this literally from off an inch away, a dolphin just kind of came up next to me. It just kind of like surfaced a little, so you saw the fin. I was 15. I was like, I thought that was a shark at first. I was like, I'm freaking out. I was like, I do not want to be in the water right now.
Well, you're at the water level. I mean, and that thing comes up.
Yeah.
And I mean, any animal comes up. But I mean, I'd pee my pants and I have to come, even if I knew it was a dolphin.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I got to come in.
Well, it's bigger than you, and you're in its environment.
I would try to ride it.
Come here. here, dolphin.
Exactly. Aquaman.
Yeah. I don't know if it was the unexpectancy of it, where it just showed up next to me. It was just this huge mammal that was right
and they're
next.
just floating in the middle of the water at this point, and they're waiting for the boat to come around, and there's an unknown.
You're all vulnerable.
Animal right next to you. You can't see under your feet. You know, it's just.
Yeah, I just remember being pretty intimidated by this dolphin. I was actually on his boat too, which is a very small fishing boat, and there was a mantis that was like right under manatee, yeah. And that was pretty intimidating too, to be next to such a large creature in the water, and you just kind of see the shadow, and you're over it.
Right. I mean, that could have been that could have been a tourist from Montreal. Are you sure it was an actual mantis?
It could have been. It could have been. Yeah.
I would have tried that.
Big white thing.
Yeah,
in the water.
just floating in the water. Yeah. But,
See, I think I'm just weird, but I would have tried to touch the manatee. I think I just want to touch everything.
I think
or eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I probably would do different things now, but I remember at the time it was pretty intimidating.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, from what I understand, you were duck diving down into the seagrass with you were like feet up, grabbing stuff with your hands in the Gulf in the seagrass.
Yeah.
And other things besides hermit crabs live in the seagrass, right?
Yeah,
like predators.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, so I don't know if I would have been doing that. Yeah, you.
I don't know.
It's fun to watch from afar.
Yeah.
Oh, there goes Will.
I kept saying, like, come on, guys, let's go hunt in the seagrass. And I was like, no.
Well, I'm fishing for snook and red over here, and Will's
diving into the seagrass.
Disturbing our
I'm glad
fishing.
you had fun.
Oh, that's part of the trip. I was having such a blast just diving into the seagrass and finding stuff.
Yeah.
I think I'm just really exploratory.
Well, when we lived in Virginia, if you guys remember, we had that 4 acres in Kirkley.
Yeah.
And there was the path that led all the way back past the clearing.
The Dagobah system.
Into the Dagobah, right?
Yeah.
We called it Dagobah because it was all swampy and it literally looked like where Yoda lived.
It's really dense.
Yeah.
And up to that point, Will was terrified of snakes. Wouldn't want to go near them and anything. And we saw about a 6-foot black snake that was vertical on a large tree.
I've never seen anything like it.
You looked up in the tree and there's just a snake like a leach on the tree. It was huge. And Will goes, oh my gosh, it's a snake. And within a split second, he goes, I'm going to go try to grab him. And then as soon as you grabbed him.
No, what I did was I took a stick.
Oh, that's right.
Whacked him off the tree, and then I was fighting him in the grass, and I picked him up.
Then you picked him up.
Yeah.
But I just remember at that moment, there was a moment where you picked up this thing that you were terrified of, and you said, this is fascinating, and actually, I kind of respect these things. And then you found out as much as you could about snakes, and you knew how to handle them and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and then I was hunting snakes for the rest of our
right in a good way.
Yeah,
like making sure you're like relocating snakes.
Yeah. There was that one.
We weren't frying them up or anything.
No. It was a rat snake.
So you are exploratory, like in this, but usually there's a trigger, like, oh, that's fun. Let's do that 80 more times.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of with the seagrass because Uncle Joe was like, you might have fun in the seagrass. Go like start walking around in there. And I'm like, man, this is freaky.
Yeah.
Because at first you're like, there's so much stuff under me right now. I don't know what's here. It's all dark. I can't really see anything.
Especially the seagrass.
And then after
it's weird even to walk on.
Right.
And you're
it's unnatural.
Not just sand.
You're just feeling with your toes. So you're just kind of stop seeing with your eyes. I'm sure if you're ever like trying to grab something, you stop seeing with your eyes. You start seeing with your body. So I was kind of just seeing with my toes in the seagrass, and at first I was freaked out. I was like, "This is so scary." But I started finding stuff, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." And I spent the entire time just hunting the seagrass.
You didn't grab a hammerhead or anything, though.
No. And the stingray comes behind them.
Well, I've seen hammerheads in that area before, so I guess it depends on what time you go out.
Yeah, true. It was like I don't know, 11
sundown.
Yeah, no, no, it was probably 11
feeding time
in the morning. Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing the immersion therapy of putting yourself in an environment and then exposing yourself to your fear, and then you almost instantly get over it.
Yeah, she's like, oh, this isn't as
quickly.
bad as my brain was telling me it is.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Do you think that's true of everybody, or do you think
if it's not, you're a wuss? And I'm just
I mean, there are plenty of people that are immersed into it and go, I'm out. Like, get me back on the boat.
They just need to stand longer, I guess.
Well, they're not immersed enough.
I also don't think they're open to the idea of actually letting it work in a sense where they're like, they're okay with being afraid of it. Because I think there are some people who are like, I just don't want to be like I know I'm afraid of this, but I don't want because me with the snake, I was like I'm afraid of snakes, but I don't want to. Especially with it was a rat snake. I'm like it can't
hurt you.
Can't kill me.
Right.
Because I wouldn't be picking up copperheads.
Right.
I'd be running from a copperhead. So it's like I know this can't hurt me, but I'm afraid of it, and I don't want to be afraid of it because, like logically and rationally, there's no reason to be afraid of it.
So you had a desire to change, which the immersion allowed for that. It was a catalyst that allowed for that transformation.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think there are some people that are like, nah, spiders are whack. I don't want to touch a spider.
Not interested in. I'm not interested in getting over my fear.
Exactly.
And not interested at all.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's a tarantula that can't hurt you. Don't worry about it. It's like no, don't care. It looks creepy. I'm out of here.
Well,
that's how I feel with centipedes.
I was gonna say that's how I feel with most insects and even snakes. To be honest, like I'm not afraid of snakes. Like I'll confront a snake if I have to, but that idea of holding a snake like it's a pet. I'm just not interested. Right. I don't want to go to Busch Gardens and hold a python just for fun. It's just not.
Really and you have no interest in getting over it.
Zero interest. I have no. I don't care. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If a snake came up in a mostly peaceful protest, you confront him if you had to.
Yeah, if I had to.
But beyond that,
as far as my day, it's like, oh, today I'm going to try to like snakes. I'm not interested in that at all.
Well, that's how I am with centipedes and millipedes because ever since Star Wars Episode 2, The Clone Wars, when I saw when I was little, I was like, when PopeFrancis releases, or it wasn't PopeFrancis, it was that weird other assassin.
Oh yeah, he released all those little things that go into in the bedroom.
Yep, and they kind of look like centipedes, like giant centipedes. Ever since that day, I'm like, I never want to touch a centipede. I don't care if they can't hurt me. That thing is the spawn of Satan.
No, it is. And it's moving in that unnatural way. Like spiders move in unnatural ways, snakes move in an unnatural way. Well, there's I don't know if you guys ever watched the Brady Bunch, but there's this pretty famous episode where they go to Hawaii, and the whole idea is that whoever had this tiki doll around their neck, bad luck came to them. Of course, there was an explanation for it all, and Dad explained it. But there's this one famous scene that's the cliffhanger till part 2, where Peter's wearing the tiki doll and he wakes up and a huge hairy tarantula is like right on his chest. And when you're a kid and you see that, it just sears it into your eyes. Like, I'm never going to Hawaii, and I'm never touching a spider, and I'm never wearing a tiki doll.
That's exactly what happened.
Sure, not wearing a tiki doll.
That's exactly what happened.
What the hell's throw that away? Greg hit his head and almost died on the surfboard. Alice threw her back out doing
giving it to a priest.
So letting him burn it. Exactly. I'm not going to burn it myself. Right.
Exactly.
Somebody trained in these matters.
Yeah. I don't want it jumping into me.
That's right.
So the shells.
Oh, the shells.
Yeah, so we're paddling back from Irma Pass, and Hannah loves collecting shells. Like that's one of her things to do at the beach. So Irma Pass has so many shells on it just because it's right off of the.
Real quick, I imagine it's man-made, but there's a tree with a bunch of shells.
There's like 4 of them actually. Yeah,
there's many trees with shells scattered throughout all the branches.
Yeah, they're
stuck on.
People like go there and like put a shell on it. It's like the lock
tree
of
of shells
bridge in France.
Like Paris,
Anyway, so like since it created that the hurricane created that little pathway. So since there's so much water that's just rushing in there all the time, it just kind of washes all these shells on, like so many shells. Like it's almost like walking on glass. Like
but they're on the beach.
On the beach.
Okay, gotcha.
So I have pockets in my life jacket, and I'm just stuffing my pockets full for Hannah, and I fill up on shells, and they all look the same. So it's not.
Look at Hannah. What? Not the same.
Yeah.
Poor Hannah.
So Hannah starts holding them all, and we put them in the kayak. So we're paddling back, and we get into the seagrass, and I'm like, oh, I want to see what's in the seagrass.
Wait, so where are the shells at this point?
In the kayak.
They're in the kayak? Loose in the kayak.
I still have my pockets full of...
And this is not a kayak that you put yourself into. You're sitting on top of it. Mm-hmm. Nothing's covered your legs. Nothing below, right? Okay, no storage. Okay.
So, and my pockets are still full of shells. Okay. And those made it back. So we get to the shallow part where there's a bunch of seagrass. I'm like, oh, seagrass. I want to see what's in the seagrass. So I lean over and start touching the seagrass. I'm like, I can almost touch it. And I don't think that, I'm in a kayak, and if I go too far, I'm going to flip.
Right.
So I'm like, almost there. And I extend myself a little bit too far. And we just capsize the whole kayak, and all the shells are everywhere.
Shells.
Yeah.
So the ones that were indiscriminately picked up by you are in the vest are safe, but the special ones that were cultivated and curated by Hannah with a keen eye.
Yep.
victim of the seagrass.
Yep.
They're now a sacrifice to the seagrass gods. Yes.
Hannah was pretty mad. That was not.
I've never seen Hannah mad.
That paddle. Well, it's silent mad.
It's a silent. it's a smoldering.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, that paddle back was not fun.
45 minutes.
Yeah.
That's 45 minutes. Seemed like an hour and a half that time. I don't know why.
Yeah,
It's like 15 minutes going up there.
Yeah. And I was paddling the whole way back myself. No,
I feel like two lasers just beaming into my back of my skull the whole way back.
Well, it was actually I was in the back, so it was like eyes in the back of the head, like back in kindergarten.
Oh, I see.
You know,
eyes in the back of the head, and she's completely ignoring you, and you're watching her ignore you all the way back.
Yeah,
I see.
Hannah's a great person, though. So
Hannah's a wonderful
she's
person.
The best.
Who lost her shells.
Yeah.
Did you touch the seagrass?
Oh yes.
There was nothing.
So once again,
well, we found crabs a little,
like the bonnet head.
Well, that was a different part. Yeah. So
like the bonnet head shark, you came back completely empty-handed.
Yeah.
You lost the shells and the seagrass.
my pockets were full.
Pockets were full.
Yeah, of the not good shells. So we get close to where we're gonna like take the kayaks out of the water, and I don't know, probably about like 5 minutes from there, there's more seagrass, and me and Mike get out. Well, Uncle Joe gets out because he sees a horseshoe crab in the water, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I want to go get that!" So he jumps out to pick it up to try to show us it. Lost it, and then we found a crab trap. Someone's crab trap, which is not crabbing season, so it was an illegal crab trap. But we found a crab trap, and then right outside the crab trap was a blue crab. So me and Mike got out, and we were trying to pin it with an oar and stuff like that, and it got away. So then we went to look at the crab trap, and we lifted it up, which Uncle Joe's like, "If you can do it, but just know that you might get shot because messing with somebody else's
That's somebody's
crab trap,
property. That's somebody's livelihood.
People get mad,
Poaching or not poaching. Yeah.
Yeah, so we just lifted it up to see what was inside. We didn't want to take anything, and because when I was in the seagrass before, when I was finding all the urchins and stuff, I found some stone crabs, and they were like small stone crabs. I'm like, oh, and I've never seen a stone crab before, so it's like, oh, this is how big stone crabs are. We pick it up, and I mean, these stone crabs were massive, like softball size.
Really?
Like as big as blue crabs, probably bigger than the one we saw, but
massive stone crabs. I'm like, oh my gosh, these are huge. What's cool about stone crabs, though, is the only good part about a stone crab is the claws. So yeah, they just rip the claws off and throw them back into the water, and they regenerate. So it's completely renewable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like blue crabs,
I learned that from Uncle Joe too. He caught one, and it was a little one, but it had a claw. He's like, let's grab the claw at least. And he throws it back in. I'm like, oh, isn't that fun?
And they just regenerate. Yeah.
You leave one to fight. Leave one so he can fight still, right?
Yeah.
You leave one to,
It's awesome, yeah. But we were lifting up the cage, and we saw all the stone crabs on the front, and then something on the bottom started shaking the cage. And we're like, okay, drop in left. It was pretty scary.
What? Something?
Yeah, 'cause it was in the bottom of the cage or something, but it was like snapping, and like, I don't know if it was it had to be a big crab, because it was shaking the bottom. Me and Mike were like, oh my gosh, we just dropped it and like ran.
Like, did it feel like something had like bit it and was shaking it around in your mouth?
No,
or
it was
something?
in it, and it was like jumping up, like pinch, because it was half submerged, half unsubmerged.
But
Like
it was
jumping up and no,
it was violent enough to be like, oh my gosh, we gotta get
We're out. Yeah.
We're already on edge too,
Yeah.
because it was also like covered in barnacles that we were trying to cut ourselves and get
all the
infected.
Mr.
Not get
Ballen,
shot.
and all the Mr.
And that
Ballen
too.
videos.
Yeah, Mr. Ballen.
Yeah, can't risk it anymore.
So we need, so Mr. Ballen's a genius in a couple different ways, but the one thing that he does, and for those who haven't seen him, Mr. Ballen tells scary stories on YouTube, TikTok, and things like that. But for YouTube, he always starts out with before we get into the story, if you like this type of thing, gently mutilate the like button, and then, share and subscribe. But every episode, he does something different to the like button.
It's hilarious.
And so there's a whole bunch of people that are following him, you can tell in the comments, because they're just trying to see what is he going to do to the like button this episode.
It's pretty funny.
And it's actually ingenious because it also makes you, instead of just passing through that.
I don't want to skip it.
Yeah,
I don't want to
you're not going to skip that.
I always go, I don't want to hear it, but I'm like, I gotta know.
I get the like button part and then skip the rest.
You could 10-second skip, but I always want to hear it, and then he does it again, and it's in there. So he's brilliant, and it also, you are thinking about the like button when you're watching this.
And then you like the video,
yeah, and so it's in your mind. He's actually a marketing genius.
Yeah, he is.
I don't know if
he's
he's
a former SEAL, by the way.
former Navy SEAL. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's right.
Such a great storyteller. But man, the stuff he talks
They're
about.
spooky.
Because it's not just paranormal. Some of it is.
No,
but
it's
some
a
of
good
it's-
amount of paranormal.
Yeah, but some of it's the guy that was living in this family's wall for 6 months.
And there, by the way, more than one of those stories. I mean, more than one of those stories of people literally living in the person's house, coming down, having a 3 a.m. snack, sleeping on their sofa, then going back into the wall for the rest of the day. And 6 months later, they find this dude.
Well, then
sometimes they're dead in the wall. Sometimes they're not. And sometimes they have a knife.
Yeah.
So,
or like in the middle of the night, one of the kids will find them and tell the parents, and they just won't believe them because they can't find them.
Oh, you're crazy.
Timmy, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Bad
It's
dream.
so creepy. And you end up, you're on YouTube before bed and you watch 4 and then I got to check under my bed 6. You're back in like 3rd grade.
You do have to check under the bed.
You're opening the curtains and we get into the bathroom to check in the shower.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure the blinds are closed, doors are locked.
Absolutely. And it's under the bed.
Yep.
Like when you get up, and your feet are there.
You jump in.
You're checking your phone. That's feet go right back under the right back up in the bed as fast as they possibly can. Because some of the stories have dudes under the bed.
A lot.
It's not a lot of them.
And someone in the bed's so low to the ground that they wouldn't think to check because it's so low.
So small.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no, there's someone under there.
Like there's one.
No one could
like
fit
there's
there.
one story. Two college friends, a male and a female, but they were just friends. They were study partners. It was late. Guy couldn't go back to his place, so he crashes at girl's place. Platonic relationship. So she sleeps on the bed. He sleeps on the floor on a blanket next to her bed.
Oh.
And at 2:00 in the morning,
I haven't seen this one.
okay, at 2:00 in the morning, she kind of wakes up and the guy is standing there with this kind of weird look on his face. He goes,
and he's in the middle of the door frame.
He's standing in the middle. He goes, I really am hungry right now. We got to go get some teriyaki chicken right now. And she goes, what are you talking about? And he grabs her, goes, we need to go out and get teriyaki chicken right now. And he pulls her out, closes the door. He goes, I'm not getting teriyaki chicken. There's somebody under your bed. Because he was, of course, eye to eye with them, sleeping with them. Can you imagine
that'd be
turning
terrifying.
over and there's this dude there under the bed? So it's all stories like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Now some of them get into the paranormal and stuff like that, and those are super freaky, but they're not all like that.
No,
then he has the Missing 411 series,
Which is really interesting.
which is David.
But also you're like David
Politis.
Politis. Yeah. Which the Missing 411, you're like, okay, I think Bigfoot's real. Something's
Okay,
hunting.
Bigfoot's definitely real?
Something's hunting
or
people in
something
the woods.
that is called Bigfoot.
Yeah, because there's so many just I mean, they're well documented, and there's so many of them that you're just like, how are these people going missing? And then find up in like, because you got to listen to them. Shout out to MrBallen. You have to watch his stuff. At least the 411 if you don't want to get too scared.
Right.
But there's so many times where these people go missing, and then they're found in the weirdest places, miles and miles away, and like their stuff's folded and organized, but they were taken in like weird ways. It's so.
But their feet are always messed with. Like their
Or the
boots
boots
are
are off,
always missing.
yeah.
So
or the
weird.
kids will reappear where the search party went by 5 times, and they ask the 5-year-old girl, they go, "Oh, Mr. Bear was feeding me."
Yeah.
And the people say, "Oh, it was a bear," but it was kind of like a bear man.
Yep.
And he was holding me up. Well, bears don't articulate their arms in a
Yeah.
certain way, but primates do. And it's some amazing stuff. You know that I'm, of course,
Bigfoot fanatic.
Sasquatch. There is enough evidence for me to believe that there is definitely an unknown primate species in North America. Let's just put it that way. But these missing 411s, definitely evidence of something grabbing them that's big and knows the trees well enough to move quickly.
Yep.
But there's also, if you've ever seen the movie Missing 411, The Hunted, that's on Prime right now, David Politis, is that it?
Yeah.
He makes a suggestion that there's also something that's similar to a predator type of character that likes in the trees and knows how to is like camouflaged and like.
There's a lot of those too where they're like walking in a line.
Have you seen these?
Yeah, where they're walking. I haven't seen that, but I've seen MrBallen did one on one of his Missing 411 when he talks about it, where they're walking in a line.
Right.
It's like a barbed wire fence on the right side of them, and there's like, and they're on a path, and there's no way to go. Like left is like too hard to go, or you'd notice if they were going. They're walking in a line, and they're periodically looking back to check on each other to make sure everybody's there. And they're like real tight next to each other.
Right. So they're one in front of each other in a line.
Yeah, in a line. And like they're looking back every like 2 minutes, and they don't hear anything. It just does this casual look back, and one of the dudes is just gone. They would have heard him. There's leaves all around. There's no way that he could have just left. And then they find his boots, like.
They find one boot in the barbed wire fence, another one miles away by like a pond.
And the pants in such a way that somebody, and change on the ground, like somebody had to pick him up by the boots, shake him, and like the change and everything out of his pockets fall out, and then his pants are like ripped off, like they're ripped off backwards. and he's never found. There's always something about the feet. Now, I don't know what the heck this means, but again, if you want to get into a good mystery without getting into some, weird paranormal aliens or demons or anything, but it's just a mystery.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of evidence because,
and so many cases.
It's so many.
Like an unbelievable amount where you're like, okay, because I'm skeptical about this stuff. I'm like, whenever Dad's talking about Bigfoot, I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. But when I watch these and I listen to him, and he's an ex-detective, like a police detective. Like
right, police detective.
Very well-renowned guy.
Absolutely.
And
in fact, he was asked by the Rangers to look into a few cases because they couldn't explain him and for him to run him down. And that's when he started getting into this and running more and more, following and saying, okay, there are these 12 common aspects of all of these weird cases, and anyway.
Yeah. So now I'm totally at the point I'm like, there has to be something out there that's doing this. Because it can't be a person. Because there's just no possible way it's a human being.
Not a human being.
It's no possible way. And I'm saying it's Bigfoot. I don't know what it is, but they're all so similar that they have to be connected. Because like there's it's like the boots and the feet, and then they all like usually end up finding like miles away. Like it'll be in the tundra,
right?
Like -20, and then they'll find a dude with his boots like 6 miles away, and then the dude like 20 miles from that position.
Right.
And they find his body. Like, there's no way he could have walked there. And there was one that Survivor Man.
Yes, he did.
He with a kid, with was like the 2-year-old kid.
Yeah, they found a 2-year-old kid
12 miles away within a certain time frame. Survivor Man Les Stroud makes the trek, saying, "Okay, time me."
Yeah.
Because they know when they found the kid and when they lost the kid, and Survivor Man couldn't make it over this terrain to the end point.
Impossible.
In his own time. And he's Survivor Man. And he was humping it.
Yeah.
Okay. So this 2-year-old kid, no way.
And doesn't have a jacket, doesn't have
shoes
on.
Doesn't have shoes on, but could make it if he's right on the back of Bigfoot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or could make it if he's up there being held by Invisible Tree Man, who knows how to manipulate the tree system really, really well.
Yeah.
Now, that one's a little harder for me to believe because I don't know what the hell that is. But I can see a very large primate because there were some eyewitnesses that saw a kid on the shoulder of a quote-unquote bear that looked more like a man.
Like, it wasn't the shoulder. It was like carrying him like a football almost.
Yeah.
But bears.
There's another one. There's like over his shoulder with his arm.
Yeah. But it was still articulated.
Yeah.
The arm was articulated like if you're. You can't see me right now, but if I have my hand out, palm up, and then I bend my arm to touch my shoulder. So my arm has to still articulate, and bears' arms don't do that.
Some type of range of motion or something like
It has
that.
to be some type of primate's range of motion. That can do this. That bears can't do it. In fact, dogs can't do it.
Really nothing
only a
besides
primate
primates and
because of the way our hands are so small. If you look at bears, their paws are actually their toes like here, and this part is really long. Same with the dog.
Yeah,
it's actually the hand, and so the radius and the ulnar are still there, but they're in a different place.
Yeah,
so they can't articulate in the same way. So anyway, we went off on that, but I'm going to tell you, he does them like almost every day, and the guy's got 500,000 followers, and sometimes when I get the notification, I go right on, and there are already 454 comments.
Yeah.
I mean, people are like MrBallen fanatics.
Yeah,
yeah.
And he's so humble. He's just a regular dude. He has some kids, has a wife, has a job, tells stories.
And he doesn't tell him in a way that like he's trying to make him creepy or anything like that.
No weird voices.
It's just like he's just him in front of a green screen sometimes in front of a wall, and he's just talking.
It's like Mr. Heath telling a story.
Yeah.
It's the best way I can tell you.
But he does.
I've never seen an episode, so is he like kind of reporting it? Is that it?
Nope. He goes, I'm going to tell you a story. It's like a campfire story.
Yeah.
Like Jack,
Interesting.
let's come around. Here's the story. Ready?
Yeah.
And he tells you a story.
Interesting.
That's it.
No photos or anything? Like
Sometimes he'll interlace some photos. Sometimes they're photos of the case. Sometimes they're just stuff he pulled off the net that looks like it to make it.
Give you an idea
to increase the creep factor sometimes.
Yeah.
But I listen to them usually without the video. Mm-hmm. I usually just listen to it at night with the noise canceling headphones in the
2 a.m.
That's
at 2 a.m. Because everybody's sleeping. I'm like, okay, I can finally listen to these. And so I put my headphones on and I just listen to it. It is pretty scary.
Yeah.
So you just hear his voice. So that tests his storytelling abilities.
Yeah, and he's just talking.
And then it's just theater of the mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just all in your mind.
Yeah, that's the part that gets you, dude.
It's more scary than any movie you can watch.
You're laying in bed with your eyes closed and that's all you can see and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die.
Yeah. Yeah. Like did you see the sitting tree one? Did you hear the sitting tree one?
That's probably the worst
one. Sitting tree one, that's why I'm thinking it's that invisible dude. Because think about it. It could be even if
dude. Not invisible, but something kind of chameleon can do. Just change, or an octopus, but can change the color to adapt its environment.
Let's say the
more.
same, right? Something that would blend in where you can't make this thing out anymore. Which is, again, David Paulides doesn't speculate what it is, but he leaves you thinking at the end of the movie that could be Sasquatch.
We're watching this tonight, by the way, Hannah.
It could be Sasquatch, and they talk to each other in their own language, but they do communicate.
Yeah.
Or it could be something that has a chameleon camouflage ability. Yeah. And by the way, it's a primate, though. Because they actually have video of these things. And you can't see them at first, kind of just like the movie. And they're old. They're like from the 70s. Like some guy had a video camera or, went back when they had the big VHS blocky things. Yeah. And you can see, and it's just going. And then all of a sudden, you can tell just from the outline that it notices that you notice it.
Weird.
Then it starts coming like closer to you and stuff like, oh, shit, shoot. And then it just drops the camera. The good guy starts running and stuff. Yeah. And then when they saw the movie in like 1986 with Arnold Schwarzenegger, they go, that's what I saw. That's what I saw.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so,
I guess they even could be two different creatures.
That's wild.
Oh, absolutely. The stories could be some Sasquatch, some chameleon. I'll call them chameleon man.
Well, I think so because there's actually,
but those are again really interesting. Good campfire stories, and he does have some ghosts and goblin ones, but you don't have to get into those if you don't want to.
Break your home.
I don't watch the demon ones; those hit too close to me.
No, you don't. You did not have to do. Yeah.
Some people, it's vice versa though. Some people are more terrified by the human aspect or the.
I think I'm a lot more.
I personally am not. I'm way more afraid of the paranormal than.
So agreed.
The guy. I'd rather have a guy under my bed than having. Satan.
No, I think I'm the other way because
I'm the other way too because I know Satan can't kill me.
Oh, that also I can relate more as a human to
I can kill
another.
But he can be.
He's flesh and blood. He can bleed.
Yeah, I can leave.
That's right.
But if you listen to some of MrBallen's home invasion stories, they're the creepiest stories, and you can. The reason why they hit so close is because you relate to them so much.
You're like, I have walls.
You thought it was one of your friends that was spending the night at your house, but it's really
that one
someone who broke your home.
Dude.
That's
when she's hiding in the attic.
Yeah, and is
my gosh,
sprinting towards your bedroom.
I'm gonna find you.
And your phone's on your nightstand. Your phone's on your nightstand. You're waiting there for hours for him to leave.
And so your phone.
If you don't believe,
it's not your friend that came in.
Yeah.
If you just happen to get lucky and get up there,
in a matter of seconds.
I know.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
If anyone
right after you finish this, but don't go after watch MrBallen.
Watch MrBallen. But also
we'll link to some MrBallen.
How about that? We will. Yeah.
If any of you that are listening to this are not pro-gun, listen to some MrBallen, and I promise you'll go. We all need at least a .45 caliber on our hips.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
While sleeping.
Pillows.
While sleeping.
Every night.
And an AR in the attic.
Yeah.
Unless the guy's living up there.
And an extra phone.
Extra phone.
Yeah. You need a burner phone. Hiding in your attic.
And one that only works with your hand on it.
Yeah,
Just in case
living
in the attic gets it.
You need the James Bond gun.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Did
you see the one with the werewolves that came out yesterday?
No, I didn't.
All right.
I wanted to watch that one, but Hannah told me I couldn't watch that last night.
That's one. It actually is good with the video. It almost makes me think that somebody made a movie out of the story because the visuals are so good. They're not just plucked off of the internet to kind of make it look like a.
Yeah.
It's I won't tell you the story, but it's the wolves in Maine. This family. Yeah.
No, I saw that. I saw like the notification last night, like half jokingly, because me and Hannah were at her parents' house, and I'll tell us more about MrBallen in a second. But I was sleeping up in the so basically. They got this new house, and there's an upstairs, but there's only one room in the upstairs. It's like a game room, media room kind of thing. So there's like just stairs to go up there. And Hannah was sleeping downstairs, and I was sleeping on there on an air mattress.
So you're the only one at that level.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So Hannah comes up, and she's saying goodnight to me and everything, and because we just went boating the night before, and I could barely walk just because of the wipeouts on the tubing. Because Mr. Haskin, he just got Hannah's dad just got a new wake boat.
Oh yeah,
and man, it's insane. It's the Malibu's, like the nicest ones you can get.
Really,
the professional ones.
Wow.
Yeah. And the wakes you make on that you're pushing so many G's on when you're I'm not kidding, when you're on that raft that you're like, I'm gonna black out sometimes.
Really?
Yeah. Like,
how do you hold on?
Yeah, it's so hard. And he wasn't even going full blast. Yeah.
Oh my god!
But when you fly off of it, like not the centrifugal force, but like you're
Yeah.
flying so
Your momentum.
hard.
Yeah.
You're just barrel rolling over
Because
the
you're
water.
going like
Yeah.
170 miles. You're
Yeah.
probably going 70 miles an hour.
and you're skipping over the water like a rock, barrel rolling. Like but it wrecked my body. I was
you're
in so much
bruised up,
pain.
right? You're beaten up by
And
the water.
I have so much hardware in me too.
Right.
I have
yeah.
hardware.
You
For
got
everybody that doesn't know,
metal in most of your body.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Darth Vader
yeah.
with some bone in there too.
Exactly. Yeah. That just the next day I was like, I can barely walk. It was and I had to go up and down the stairs, and there's a bathroom up there, so so anyway, Hannah's doesn't want me to go downstairs any more than I have to when I'm about to go to bed, just her being sweet, just so I don't hurt myself. So she summed up, say goodnight, long story short,
Right.
and I was like, I'm gonna watch the new MrBallen, like half joking, because she knows that I've like the nights before I've been really freaked out.
Right.
We'll get into a second. And so I was going to watch the werewolf one, but I was like, I probably shouldn't for my own sanity. But anyway,
I think you would have been okay watching it because it wouldn't have related to your
Gotcha.
situation.
So-
but the ones that do,
yeah.
forget about it.
Yeah, so I'm in, to kind of connect this back to the MrBallen thing, I'm in this room. She has a really big house. Their parents have a really big house out in the middle of the country, in the Fort Worth area, like over, if any of you know, like over by Eagle Mountain Lake. And
is it rural? Is it like, are you
Yeah.
in the country, like in the woods kind of?
Not really in the woods.
But you're not in the suburbs.
She not even close.
Okay, gotcha.
Not even close.
Things could live there and come out of the woods.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. Or people.
Or people.
Yeah. And so I'm up here all by myself, and there's two different attics, like entrances in that room, like across from each other.
Oh, man.
And but one of them, it's a closet, and then an attic door in the closet, so it's
Right.
even freakier. That's behind my head, and then at my feet. Okay, so then at my feet, they're still setting up in there. So the pool table's all set up, but it's one of those pool tables that you can put a ping pong table on top of it
right.
and play ping pong on it. And those so the boards are stacked like against the pool table vertically, so you can't see the other wall, and that's where the other door is. So I'm laying in bed, it's pitch black, and I can't see either of the doors that I'm in my mind, because MrBallen, I'm like, there's somebody in these.
It's clearly he's coming out now. It's snack time.
And I'm on an air mattress that's pushed up against the pool table, and air mattresses, when you're sleeping on them, they make noise.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're on it, at least this one in this configuration, it like hits the pool table in a weird way that it makes like almost like a stomping smack noise. That's really freaky. That sounds like somebody's like walking or opening a door.
Right.
But it's it's the way the air mattress is hitting the thing. So I'm up there, and it's pitch black. There's a little bit of light because they have like recliners that have like lights so you can see the controls. And all by myself, it's like 2 a.m. And this is like every night I'm up there. I watched MrBallen or watched it earlier that day, or I've just watched enough of them that's all in my mind, and I'm laying there, I'm hearing these like noises and knocks, and
it's a new house, so it's probably settling still too. There's noises
exactly.
and stuff, right?
Freaking
And at no point did you
Ow.
decide to slide the air mattress out just slightly.
Oh, yeah, you're right. But freaking out, like I'm literally.
So no wonder you come back so exhausted.
Yeah.
You're so asleep for 4 days.
Yeah, so I'm laying there, and I'm not even kidding. I'm laying there going, okay, if I die tonight, this, I gotta make sure I'm good in these areas.
Right.
And okay, if somebody does come out of this closet,
Rapid examination
What am I
of
gonna do?
conscience.
exactly. If somebody does come out of this closet right now, what's my fastest escape?
Right.
Can Mr. Haskin across the house hear me yelling, and can he get his gun in enough time? Like always going through my head, like every night, going, okay, so if this happens, is it possible?
Here's my plan.
With my injury, with my soreness, is it possible for me to get down the stairs fast enough and get to his room while alerting Hannah to get over there, so that whoever's chasing me doesn't go in and kill her first? And
Right.
Then,
Right.
All these are going through my head like the entire night. Just
Have you come up with a solution, by the way?
No.
No, so you're screwed.
terrified.
Yeah.
Because they're basically, so they flank me, both the doors.
Yeah.
So I'm further away from the door than those doors are to the door downstairs. So if somebody were to pop out, I'm dead.
I think
I'm also thinking of, how do I position this pillow over my head so that they think my head's here, and so if a gun comes,
Ha-ha!
I'm not kidding.
And then you're come out of the pool table.
Yeah.
Ha-ha!
Yeah. All
with a big
all
trident.
100% real thoughts. And I have like the smallest either the fastest metabolism in existence or the smallest bladder in existence.
Maybe both.
Yeah, maybe both. Yeah. So I'm not kidding. By the time I'm ready for bed, so I go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, wash my face, and all that stuff, go up to bed. And by the time I'm said my prayers and have like settled in to go to bed, I've probably gone to the bathroom 3 more times. I'm not joking.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
that, okay,
I know.
I pee a lot. I gotta pee right now. So I'm constantly going up and down, and through the night I usually wake up and have to go to the bathroom. But every single time I go down to the bathroom, I'm coming back up, turning all the lights on, checking in the attics, opening the doors, making sure. I'm like, why isn't there a lock on this door?
I know.
Why isn't there a lock on this attic door?
The attic door.
I need a lock.
You got to bring one next time.
Yeah, I
and
do.
Install it.
Yeah, I do.
Because it's new enough that Hannah's parents might not know that there wasn't one there before.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, oh,
they never go up there.
That's
'cause
always
the AC was broken for a while.
No, they've
and it's
been
downstairs.
Oh no, that lock's been there the whole time, Mr. Haskin.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Freaked. Oh, so scared up there. But I love sleeping up there because Mr. Haskin likes it so super hot in the house. Like he likes it, like, I'm not kidding, 78 or 80 degrees at night.
That's
and I can't. Oh yeah, can't breathe.
So I think it's worse.
So when I sleep downstairs and I just can't breathe. Like it's that dry heat. And sometimes it'll be cold at night, but he wakes up at like 6 sometimes. So by the time I wake up, I'm like waking up like super hot, not being able to breathe. It ruins my whole day because I'm thrown off. So sleeping up there is great because it has its independent thermostat, so I can make it 70 degrees all night and turn the fan on, so I'm nice and cozy and wake up feeling great.
So sleep comfortably, or or get stabbed by the guy living in the in the attic.
Yeah. But the thing is, his videos are so interesting that I can't not watch them.
I mean, they are. I'm using this word flippantly, addictive in that sense.
Yes, they are.
As soon as you see one come on, you're like, oh, because they're only like 15 or 20 minutes too. So it's not a big investment. And you're just looking at the guy telling you a story. He's looking at the camera. He's telling you a story.
And he's such a nice guy. You just want to hear him.
He's got his hat on backwards. Yeah. Like whatever. That dog from Bart Simpson. That Simpson dog, the rapping dog from Simpsons.
I know what you're talking about.
Puppy, whatever, or was it the Simpsons?
I think I know what you're talking about.
Anyway, so
terrifying.
MrBallen.
MrBallen's fantastic.
MrBallen.
Honestly, if you don't have to watch any of them, Jack, but if you at least want something like, wow, that's really interesting, and not being overly scared at all, the 411s are like, wow, that's
what they will teach you though is to never go in the woods by yourself.
Or without a lot of guns.
But it's by yourself.
And you always want to be holding hands.
Even the guys with the guns.
You're right. That one.
The guns are in the backpack, and
the Marine that even had on his hip, and the Bigfoots were hunting him.
Yeah. And they're missing the boots. But they're all by themselves. Nobody's ever in a pair.
It's always before a bad storm.
You can also. It's always before a bad storm. So did you watch the 411 movie?
No, I haven't.
I'm going to tonight.
Yeah. It's called 411 The Hunted.
Yes.
The first one is 411, Missing 411. It's Missing 411, sorry. Missing 411, the first 411, the first one was about the kid abductions, and that was a little too much
That's
for me.
hard for me, too. And I'm not even a father.
I couldn't watch that movie.
Even having a godson that I that I really love, I'm like, oh my gosh, it feels wrong.
I couldn't watch it, and it's a whole hour and a half of it, so it's not even just one story.
Those 20 minutes I have a hard time to get through.
But the Missing 411, The Hunted, is about hunters or people that are just out camping, people that are, and the question is, of course, is the hunter now becoming the hunted? Are we being hunted by something? And that one just focuses on those disappearances. And by the way, I think everybody in that movie, they don't come back.
Interesting.
They don't come back.
Those are the worst ones.
Some other ones, they come back.
There was a really interesting one, though. The cabin one, did you see that one? Where
Yes.
the Bigfoot throwing the rocks into the dude's cabin?
Oh, yeah.
And they were up all night. There's no windows in the cabin. It's
Ape Canyon.
Yeah.
That's an old. That's an old
one.
Right?
That's from the late 1800s.
That one freaked me out.
They were mining for gold. They were prospecting.
Yeah.
And that's one of the first Bigfoot stories in the in North America.
Oh, really?
And it's called Ape Canyon for that reason. Because of the things that happened.
That one. Talk about the Theater of the Mind. My goodness.
I didn't think that one was too bad. That was more interesting. I thought the second one was also pretty creepy. Just being the second
with the deer stand.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So the one with Ape Canyon, I got to tell you, when I was a kid, that we didn't have everything we have now as far as all the stories. We had Leonard Nimoy's In Search Of, and that's about it. Okay, so you had like one episode of In Search Of, and you didn't have when it was on, it was on. You couldn't record it or stream it or anything like that. What?
Coastline is that what it's called?
Coast to Coast AM, Coast to Coast AM, which is on the radio.
Yeah. Okay,
it's on the radio. But the only thing,
well, you're old enough for radio shows.
Yes, I am. I'm just kidding. It was Little Orphan Annie, and then Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. And but you only had so many stories. Is my point. You had a handful of stories, and Ape Canyon was one of them. And when you're 7 years old and you're watching this, and you're going, oh my gosh, this is both terrifying and fascinating at the same time.
Well, that's what all of his stories are.
Yeah, they're terrifying and fascinating.
I need to know.
Yep.
But man, I think I'm going to get murdered every single night.
Yeah. And none of them have resolution. It's
No,
never,
that's the worst part.
Yeah, it's never, and this is the reason what happened, or they finally found out that, nope, they packed up, left, never came back to the house again, and we still don't know what the heck's going on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Leave it in the comment,
And
whatever you
man's
think.
still at large.
Yeah.
That's one of those things that the monster ones I think are interesting, but that's one of those things that I don't want to put myself in that space until it happens.
Well,
there's no way.
Yeah, you're right.
You're right. I'm just not. That's one of those things I'm just not interested in. Like, don't find any interest in watching.
You're see, it's better to not get started. It's better to not get started.
Maybe this is just how I justify it to myself. But at this point,
I'm sure it is.
Yeah. At this point, I'm like, I'm glad I watched these, because now I know if I am in the woods and I start seeing these things, I know what's happening,
and definitely shoot it.
I can either make my last confession directly to God.
Yeah, which is statistically what's the best thing to do in that case, because you're not coming back.
Yeah, exactly. I can make
detach from your feet.
Yeah.
Detach from any. Say my feet are gone.
I'll say, okay, my boots.
They don't find their bones in their feet either.
Yeah, it's so
they
weird.
find the rest.
They find the skull. Some of the arm. Yeah.
So you find them.
Yeah, I take my shoes off and I'm like, all right, I'm ready. I got my scapular on.
Name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I said untie my shoe. Okay, we're good now.
My scapular's on my body,
Right.
Made my peace. Let's see what happens. Right. Yeah, and then always have a gun and a buddy.
Well, I think there's
have a buddy. Then you want, because there's never a case where a group of two say, and we came across this stuff and they took us, and or the two people, we never could find the two people. It's always just one.
Even if they're in a crew, it's always one that disappears.
So statistically, if you stay together and you don't stay in a single file, but you stay shoulder to shoulder,
you're always holding hands.
Back to back. Both have your illegally modified MP5s.
Right.
Yeah.
Belted together so they can't rip you off.
Exactly, yeah.
And anyway.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, Jack, what's on your shirt? Tell me about that. What does it say? It's a sweatshirt, and it's got two words on it. It looks like Latin. Volenti Deo?
Deo Volenti.
Deo Volenti?
Deo Volenti. It means God willing in Latin.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very small apparel company, Catholic.
Okay.
It's a brother and a few of their sisters that started making clothes, and they shipped me a free sweatshirt, so it's pretty cool.
It looks good.
That's nice. It looks really good on you. So it's a kind of like an olive drab green. I'd almost call it like an Army or Marine Corps green.
I think Marine Corps green is pretty accurate.
It's a pocketed, non-zip, pullover, hooded sweatshirt. Looks really good on Jack. And again, it's is it Volenti? Deo Volenti, right?
Deo Volenti.
Deo Volenti, DEO, and then VOLENTI, Deo Volenti. And I'm assuming if anybody wants to search for Deo Volenti, they'll just pop right up. But that was really nice of them.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. We'll have a picture of it on the Instagram.
Yeah, we'll have a picture, and we'll try to put a link to their website or something.
Yeah.
But thanks.
Seem like great guys.
Thanks for the sweatshirt.
Jack's one that talked to him, but from what I hear, they're really nice dudes, just trying to make good Catholic stuff. So check them out. Yeah.
There are more and more people like that, where I know of families, or should I say fathers and mothers, with they're trying to support their families, and they leave their more typical job because either it takes them away from the family too much, or they just can't. They're morally compromised in the job, and they just can't do it anymore, and they go into apparel making.
Yeah,
and they go into shirt making or things on Etsy. Even my daughter-in-law, your sister-in-law, she does stuff on Etsy, Abby. And they're doing well too. So
we should shout out her. We'll put it in the description.
Yeah, Abby Manhire.
Yeah.
I don't know if she goes by Abby Christie or Abby Manhire on Etsy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Abby, and I forget the name of the company, but we'll put it in there.
We'll get it.
Joe Lilly on Etsy.
We'll put a link.
Joe Lilly.
She makes vinyl stickers, masks.
It's amazing.
Any prints you need.
She made me a St. Benedict medal mask. It had both sides of the St. Benedict medal on it, and so it's a nice mask. But what's amazing about it is I just sent her this raw picture from the internet that wasn't necessarily vector quality or anything, and she did her magic on it and was able to come up with this really, really clean look.
Yeah. So if you need anything custom for a good price,
yeah.
She even makes if you have a small business and you need decals for your car, for the back of your window, your branding and stuff like that. She does all of that. Mugs, hats, shirts. Just
you tell her what you
anything.
want, she'll do it.
Yeah.
And she's got the
high
equipment.
quality. Yeah, she.
Yeah, so I see this cottage industry kind of pop up.
Mm-hmm. Especially with Etsy, the platforms that allow you to just set up your own apparel shop, and then the equipment that used to only be available to manufacturers, and you can just buy online for like $100 or $200-$300,
right?
And just make the same quality T-shirts for less price because you're not dealing with
I guess that's even true about podcasting. I mean, the equipment that we have, we threw down our own money and bought our own podcasting equipment, and I won't tell you how much it cost, but it didn't cost that much. And where maybe 10 years ago to get equipment to be able to put something like this out would have been prohibitive. There's so many different things that you can actually do. You can do literally from home and put out with a very same or similar quality as if you had a shop or a studio. I mean, literally, we are in my closet right now.
We are.
Now, I have a big closet. I admittedly have a big closet, but we're in my closet doing this 5-person podcast with plenty of room.
Yeah, I'd agree.
This one should be called Bigfoot in the Closet.
Bigfoot in the closet. That's a good one. Bigfoot in the closet.
Yeah.
I was trying to subtly say, do you have to go to the bathroom?
I do.
I
have to
do
go to
too.
the bathroom.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll go in. You can go right now. I'll go in.
I'll do that.
Mike's going next. All right.
So ad read. No, I'm just.
Sorry. So you couldn't read my lips because my mic was in the way. So.
Yeah, it's okay. I had an idea of what you were saying. I was like, is that really what he's saying? I'm like, maybe. Because I was like, does the door need to be closed? I'm like, no. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well,
you don't. Some people might try a catheter if they had to, but I don't think you'd
down
ever.
That road.
It's been down you.
Yeah. It has. Not by choice.
Too many times.
Clear.
Yeah, there's a medical necessity.
Yeah.
Medical necessity.
Without going too much into it on this episode, I'll probably eventually go into it sometime just because I think it's an interesting story worth telling.
Might be on MrBallen sometime.
Yeah, that's honestly. I should call him.
That's right.
Get him on the podcast.
Here's the real. We should.
Yeah, we
should get him on
the podcast.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's a nice.
We got
guy.
a couple stories we could tell.
Yeah, we do. Anyway, I was involved in a very interesting accident.
Last year,
like a year and a month, like about yeah. This is also why I have so much hardware. I broke my leg, both my feet, my left arm, my jaw. But anyway, I couldn't go to the bathroom like by myself. And then I went into this rehab place and they really messed up my bladder because I didn't know what they were doing and really bad stuff. Anyway, so I had to be cathed for
a month.
Yeah.
A long time.
I think it was 2.
2, yeah.
And let me tell you, there is nothing more, is it demasculating?
Emasculating.
There's nothing more emasculating and more painful than having a tube inside of you.
Yes.
It's the worst thing ever.
And like having your mother or your girlfriend have to had to maintain it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But that's
there's nothing more. I've been through a lot of physical pain in my life over various different injuries and situations, and I can tell you that extensive pain. And the most painful part of all of it was the poops were pretty bad from the from the hole in my throat, but that's a whole different story. But
we'll catch that up. That's a whole other podcast.
A whole other podcast. Will's misery. But yeah, cathing, worst thing ever.
So it's as bad as it sounds.
Worse.
It's worse.
So much worse.
Because I cringe.
We have extra. Do you want to?
Yeah, we have like a year supply.
More.
Let's not
like a year supply just in case you need it.
No.
No, the insurance company paid for like mass shipment.
Yeah, basically what happened was they didn't know if I broke my sacrum too, and they didn't know if. So apparently, if you break your sacrum in a certain way,
that's your tailbone, right?
Yeah, your tailbone. It can kind of pin this area like that in your urinary tract. I don't know how to put it exactly because I'm not a doctor, but in a way that can make it so that you can't pee until they have to go and like surgically and shave off some of your bone to fix it. So they didn't know if it was that, or if it was the fact that this rehabilitation place in Austin
screwed it up
so bad that they basically. It's kind of gross. I'm sorry, guys, but it was like your bladder's supposed to be like cantaloupe sized, which is not too big. Maybe like a big grapefruit sized?
No, it's not supposed to be cantaloupe.
Okay,
size.
sorry. Supposed to be
Grapefruit
grapefruit sized. Okay. Mine was watermelon sized
Yeah.
because they didn't treat me correctly. Total malpractice.
Yeah.
Probably could have sued them. Didn't. Cause I'm not the kind of person. But so for months and months, I just could not pee because my
It was like a
bladder was
balloon
just-
that was
yeah.
pushed out too much, and
Yeah.
it couldn't get its
Yeah,
elasticity
exactly.
back right away. So it took a very long time to get its elasticity back.
Yeah.
And just in case anybody thinks Will is like a 65-year-old man who's been through some
No,
problems,
yeah, I'm
he's
20.
going to be 21 tomorrow.
Yeah.
21. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Hannah, happy birthday last week. Hannah
Yeah.
turned 21 the 15th. So.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah. So they basically they sent me, the insurance company sent me a ton of them because they didn't know how long I was going to need them. And luckily, like by the grace of God, like we got all of them, because before I was on like a bag thing, and then that wasn't working because of complications. So they were going to switch me into like just straight up cathing, which they were doing at the neuro rehab place, and that's what messed up my bladder because they didn't know how to do it right, and the nurses were totally incompetent. It was terrible. Anyway, so they sent us like hundreds of them. I mean, we had probably been in the attic with so many of them.
Okay.
And
That's
like
the guy who's living in the attic. He's
Yeah.
using them.
Yeah,
So he doesn't have to come back. That's why he's staying up there so
Field
long.
day, my
That's right. That's right. Ooh, look what they left me. They knew I was coming.
and like two days later, by the grace of God, I was all healed and able to pee naturally. So
Yeah, 2 days. And you know another thing about,
but I was being cath for months. This
For
is
months.
2 days after the shipment, just to make sure that's clear.
yeah, I'm sorry, 2 days after the
Yeah,
shipment.
yeah.
You're right. And to put everything on the gratitude table,
Mm-hmm.
you just told a story about how you were wakeboarding a little bit
Yeah.
over, about actually less than a year
Yeah.
after this cath incident when you were still
Yeah.
to go from someone who they weren't sure if you were going to walk in a year,
Yeah.
and now you're wakeboarding.
What, I walk ever again?
Yeah, you walk ever again.
Yeah.
That's right. And now you're able to wakeboard. So thank God.
So yeah, thank
Thank
God.
God.
Thank God. But yeah, cathing. If you ever get asked to try it, just say no.
Just say no.
Just say no.
That would have been my first response.
We don't need a public service announcement on that. Oh man, I was going to
you
say
curious?
yes, and then I heard Will say just say no, and I thought maybe I shouldn't do it.
Well, if you're ever in a situation where you need to sneakily pee as a man, cath's not the option.
Yeah, pee your pants before you come.
I can tell you from
Yes.
professional experience, the 16-ounce water bottle is the way to go. From my time at the IRS, and even last week, when you're stuck on that Zoom call or you're stuck on that podcast, you know,
And he's gonna be like, "What?"
And you're even if you're on video, right? You can just do everything nice and quiet and everything, and then just make sure though it's gone before somebody thinks it's an interesting lemonade or ginger ale that's went flat.
Yeah.
That would be bad.
That would be bad.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah. So I think we've had enough pee talk.
I agree.
For a little while.
And I have to go.
Okay, speaking of pee.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Okay.
All right, you guys start
All
with
right.
something more
We'll,
appropriate.
We'll go. We'll do something. All right. So, Jack, I know you've got a ton of things that you want to talk about. Where do you want to start?
There's a lot of stuff.
A lot of
There's
stuff.
A lot of
yeah.
stuff.
So we went through like the crazy stuff, but kind of trivial in the sense. Certainly, Will's story is not trivial, but the kind of trivial stuff of storytelling and stuff, which is really good to to have those nice things. But there's some bad stuff going on too. Some concerning stuff going on
in the country.
In
so
the country,
far.
like, right, in the real world.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There's a lot of stuff. I don't know exactly where you want stuff or start, but we can start with the conservative protests that are. There's 3 of them right now that are kind of showing up in pockets and in groups. 2 of them turned violent. There was one in Michigan, which was a protest, and a BLM incorporated protest showed up to counter that protest. And the BLM protesters charged the conservative protest.
Gotcha. It's 2 different protests.
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
so we have. Are you familiar with the like the riots and the Antifa and BLM
Yes.
incorporated?
I don't follow it
protests?
super closely, but I know
I'm back.
slightly follow it.
Yeah. So there's those normal protests, and then there was a conservative protest, basically just marching for the Constitution, had a Trump 2020 and American flags, and
And they didn't know about this BLM protest at the same time.
There was no scheduled BLM protest to happen.
They were just doing it on their own. They weren't looking
on
for a
their own
fight.
scheduled time. They weren't looking for a fight.
When
and
did this
then
happen? Sorry, I missed it.
this was
Saturday or something. Friday.
Oh yeah, I can't remember. It's within the last 7 days.
Where?
In Michigan.
Okay, good.
In a very long. I want to butcher it, but Kalamazoo or something like that. But
Kalamazoo.
Maybe.
Okay.
There's maybe at least 8 letters maybe in it. But
Okay, Google. 8-letter word. Go ahead.
Somewhere a city in Michigan, and there was a conservative protest, and BLM Inc. counter protest showed up, and they ended up in a fist fight, and so that was one kind of engagement that happened, and then there was one in Portland, which was a flag waving service in front of the Justice Building in Portland. Now Portland's already basically a war zone, so I mean, there's no real. The whole city's in a active state of rioting, looting, and protests. So there's just like
still.
Still counting. It's
I
like
have a funny
70
anecdote
plus days straight
about
of
Portland.
What?
I have a funny anecdote about Portland.
Okay.
Real quick. So me and Hannah on our way back from Fort Worth today to College Station. We stopped at a gas station to get
Kalamazoo.
to get gas, and so Hannah went in. She just wanted to tell me the story. And the guy was, talking to her because we had to pay like with card to get the gas inside. And he was like, "How's your day going?" or whatever. And Hannah's like, "Oh yeah, it's a hot one." Where he's like, "Yeah, I'm still adjusting to the weather." And she's like, "Oh, so where are you from?" And he's like, "I'm from Portland." And she's like, "Oh, Seattle. Never mind, not Portland, but
okay,
close enough."
It's all the same.
For
Texans, it's all the same.
Yeah, it is.
It's somewhere up there in that other country.
Yeah, exactly. And so she's like, "Oh, so why'd you move down here?" And he's like, "Honestly, I just couldn't deal with the people anymore." He's like, in light of like all the events happening right now, I just cannot deal with.
So he just recently moved.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
He moved here to Texas because he's like, I can't stand how bad it is up there. And he's like, I love Texas people. They're great.
Yeah.
Well, Jack was telling the story, and I think it ends up violently, right? I mean, isn't there violence
in Portland or in Michigan?
In both.
Yeah.
Right?
So in Kalamazoo, Michigan. It turned into basically a brawl of fighting, and there was no. But the police didn't show up for about an hour and a half after, and they kind of just dissipated on their own.
Wow.
I'm surprised they even showed up.
This is where we need the Watchmen.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Or Batman or something.
Batman. Yeah, we need Batman.
And in
Elon Musk. Are you hearing? Go ahead. Sorry.
He's got to work on a squat before he gets it.
He's the fat guy in the hockey gear.
The flamethrower.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So there was. You can technically say the one in Kalamazoo, Michigan, turned violent. No one died. No one was injured, but it turned into a fist fight between the two.
Because BLM
protests.
jumped into jumped the conservatives. Right?
Yeah, they blocked them off, and then
Proud Boys or something.
Proud Boys, which is a
Oh yeah, I know about Proud Boys.
Yeah, so I don't know too much about Proud Boys, but there was
tell you about it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. From what I understand about them specifically, that they're labeled as a far right group of people that are very like kind of on the radical side of the right.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people call them as like white supremacists and stuff. I'm not sure how true all this is. Because I just heard of them literally this week, but there was a lot of back and forth between it being a far right group.
I could get for 2 second interjection.
Alt-right?
I could be like a little background about them. So the Proud Boys. I don't know if you know who Alec McGinnis is.
Didn't he play Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars? No, it's Alec Guinness. Sorry.
Yeah. I think this is his name. He used to work for. I think he started Vice. I think he's started Vice, like the original Vice the news. You know.
Oh yeah,
really big.
I know,
they're huge. Yeah. They're like an internet news thing. Vice.
Is that the comedy with
no.
Sarah Palin becoming the president or something?
No.
Okay.
Oh, that's actually a funny show.
Julie Louis-Dreyfus.
But yeah. So he started this thing, and he's like pretty popular guy. Like Mile Yiannopoulos or whatever. Milo, never mind, whatever. Anyway, so original hipster dude, just a big like right jokester.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually pretty right, like right leaning, but he likes
center right?
Yeah, he likes to make a lot of like jokes, like poke at people just for the sake of poking at them. And so he started this group as a joke called the Proud Boys.
Okay.
And they all had like this like uniform and stuff, and it was a joke. Like the whole thing was a joke. And they had like little meetings and stuff like that, but it was not at all like an actual like political group. It was all just a joke to make left people mad. But then people thought it was real and started joining it, like the KKK. Not like they're as bad as the KKK, but like they're like,
Right.
well, I'm like what they're joking about, but not knowing it was a joke. And then joined
Missing the
it.
satire.
Yeah, and then now
completely.
he's like, oh my gosh, I'm like, people are coming after me now because I'm like the Proud Boy starter and they think I'm Hitler.
It's like it's like them joining the Stephen Colbert movement when he's making fun of conservatives. the whole time.
Exactly. Which I think is super funny. That's actually a thing. So he like jumps it. He's like, I'm done with this because like he's getting like death threats and stuff like that, and people are like, look what you started. You're culpable for this. Like even if it started as a joke, like you know started like a hate group or whatever. I don't know like what they're actually doing, but I do know that he was like, all right, I'm not associated with this anymore. Everybody that was in on the joke just leave, and now this Proud Boy moniker has kind of come into this like right-winged, even like maybe alt-right. I don't know how bad it's gotten because I heard about this like a year ago.
It's a funny story.
When he was like, I gotta leave. But yeah, that's what they are.
Yeah, it's definitely being played as a radical right. So extreme
that
right.
was the joke. So I not surprised.
Probably attracted the radical right.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it might be that. Now.
Okay, so
sorry.
So Proud Boys are in
who the hell knows what happened in Michigan then? Because it turned into just maybe a 15-minute fist fight between BLM and Proud Boys. So whatever.
But they're fighting.
Yeah.
The point is there's violence.
Yeah.
Like two-way violence, right?
Yeah, and so whatever happened there, who knows? But that's something that happened. I know in Portland it was. You can kind of tell between these three groups they're not related, so they're not all three of these conservative groups or right-leaning groups are not related or coordinated in any ways. So there was the Proud Boys in Michigan that did whatever they did, and then in Portland it was a conservative flag waving event. So basically a group of people near Portland showed up and were just waving the American flag for about 60 minutes. Very small people.
This is like we're supporting America, like patriotically.
Yeah. Now this they did this in the current aftermath of Portland's the burning, pretty much. So they were definitely trying to make a political statement.
Yeah, but they were being like unify America kind of like statement, like we're here standing like for America.
Lee Greenwood.
Not for Chaz or whatever.
Yeah. So they got approached by Antifa and BLM Inc. pretty quickly, and as they were leaving, and they didn't want any part of it. They just wanted to make their political statement, and they wanted to get in the cars. As soon as it looked like it started to get violent, they started leaving. And as they were leaving, BLM started open fire on firearms
Guns?
onto the cars. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So
As they're leaving too, so it's not even to disperse them.
yeah, and there was no force on the flag waving protest.
Wow.
So there was no push for it. It was pretty much just on the BLM Inc. and Antifa basically just initiating violence with intent to kill on these groups. And then the third one that just happened yesterday was in Richmond, Virginia.
I haven't heard about the third one. No.
Wow.
Yeah. Now this one, I don't have too many details on who was involved, but I watched the video and it sounded like a lot of veterans because they were all walking with with assault rifles downtown Richmond, and they were saying cadences that. It sounded very.
Were they loaded or were they just on their backs? Like what? Like threatening manner? Like walking down.
They were open carrying it with like in their hands. So I don't know what the rule is in Virginia. Like Texas, you can legally do that, you know. But
it was like a gun rights, a pro gun. They were marching.
Those
for
happen
gun
a lot
rights.
in Texas where they walk around with their AR-15s and their tactical gear, but totally unthreateningly. I mean, to the observer, the uninformed observer, they'd go, okay, the military's coming through, but they don't have their weapons aren't loaded. They're just doing it and then they're not pointing at anybody. They're not even like holding them. They're more like they're slung on them and their hands are on them, you know, and just more like, hey, we have a right to have our guns kind of thing. So is that kind of what you're talking about?
This one, it says on Tuesday, so it was yesterday. Yesterday when we're recording this, Protests and rallies took place around Richmond Tuesday as the legislative special section got underway. Protesters gathered outside of Virginia State Capitol calling for police accountability and defunding the Richmond Police Department. One speaker at the rally said, "We will continue to fight for justice and reformation." The group also included people rallying for a statewide Marcus alert named after Marcus David Peters, who was killed by Richmond police in 2018. So maybe this is the wrong one. This one.
No, I'm seeing pictures of it right now.
That's probably it.
Is this it? Okay.
Let me see. Is there a picture or something?
I got pictures.
I mean, this looked like a bunch of crazy clown people that don't look like veterans to me.
Just gonna
see.
Yeah.
That it?
Yeah, but
Okay.
you got to see the video as far.
Oh, yeah,
I just
but
saw
the ones I have like some crazy college professor looking people who dye their hair orange or something like that.
Oh, yeah, I'm not seeing that on
yeah.
mine.
I might have the wrong one.
No idea. But
It
the
doesn't
video
look like they're
I
holding
saw
their guns.
just looked
It
like
just looked like they're
guys
slung on
our
them.
age that were just walking down
that's what I'm
Richmond.
seeing.
They
Yeah.
probably had unloaded. There's probably that march that was unloaded.
And again, in the pictures I just looked at, they're not like holding them up like they're going to shoot somebody. They're more just saying like, we have our guns because we're allowed to have our weapons.
Yeah, here the caption on the guys carrying the guns and the "Don't Tread on Me" says, "A group of heavily armed men marched down the street."
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't think they're loaded though. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have no idea. That's just something interesting that happens. There was in the midst of all this, there was 3, Republican protests that happened in these cities, and 2 of them were violent, and one of them was heavily armed.
Wow.
Whether they were loaded or not, they were definitely all carrying a lot of firearms.
That one in Portland's insane.
Yeah,
they were just They started shooting at them.
Yeah,
because you'd think, and the way the media frames everything is that the right's going to be the ones doing all this stuff, and now it's the lefts are the ones that are taking up arms and trying to kill innocent people.
Yeah,
and yet it's being reported that the dangerous ones are still the right because they are. I don't know if the right is making a mistake by carrying weapons so that they get labeled as the violent ones and the left are concealing the weapons better. I don't know.
Or at least this might be like their mentality, the right, is that they do these protests in Richmond going like, look, we can show up fully armed to the teeth. If the National Guard came out, we'd have a chance of fighting them, and go like, we're not doing this peaceful protest. We have our weapons. We're not shooting anybody. We're not yelling at anybody. We're just peacefully marching down saying we want to keep our gun rights because, it's an inalienable right.
Yeah.
And then when a left rally happens, people get shot. And none of the right are shooting anybody. Right. They're going, we can have all these guns and use them responsibly.
Yeah, without violence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you don't have people in bandanas and skinny jeans that are at their knees, walking around with AKs trying to shoot dudes in cars just because they have a gun. These guys are like, we're responsibly using our weapons. We can have bulletproof vests and, Kevlar helmets and not shoot up a school or Vegas or a flag rally. That's has nothing to do with race. We're in support of America and we're going to show our pride by waving some American flags, and then people show up with guns to kill them.
Yeah.
So I think that's I don't know them, but it kind of seems like that's what they're trying to do, is show that like we can be responsible with weapons.
The consensus I got on Twitter is that there's just this driving escalation of division between the left and the right. I'm sure I'm not surprised. I actually thought this. I don't know if I shared this with any of you guys, but that I had a feeling a radical right party was going to do something first, because they're just itching to do something. They're probably the most insensible out of everyone on the right would be the radical right.
But I also don't know if they're itching to kill people though. No, I think they're itching to defend.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And this is why I think this is the first I've heard of it all year. Where
if ATF agents come on my property, there'll be stuff discharged from my gun. But
exactly. But I'm not going to go.
I'm not going to go and be the aggressor.
Exactly. Because that's like everything. That's against everything they believe in.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not surprised that a radical right group like Proud Boys made the initial move on this. I think that's pretty suspected, but I think it just shows the escalation between the two parties right now, where especially when 2 of the 3 turned violent and none of them were intended to be violent. It's just kind of showing that the violence escalation, the tension between the right and the left is really coming out in the people. And I see that on Twitter a lot, where there's just a lot of normal people that are just conservatives that are just ticked off. Like they're just they're fed up with what's going on with these riots and these lootings and what's happening in these inner cities and how it's spreading. And then there's a lot
across the world, it seems.
Yeah. I don't. Well, so initially I heard there was BLM Inc. Movements that happened.
I didn't even mean BLM. I meant just like what we're talking about in the show. We couldn't release because
the Lebanon
didn't work. Yeah, the Lebanon
Beirut.
Thing. Yeah,
and there were protests. Yeah. So it seems like instead of yelling at each other with megaphones, like we used to do, people are taking it to the street. Whatever it is, whatever the issue is, we have to go out and protest. Not riot, but protest, but essentially riot until we get our way. And then when you have two different groups both saying we've got to take it to the street to be heard, because if I'm the right and I'm seeing the left going, wow, they're being heard because they're getting out there, I better get out there so I can get heard, otherwise I'll just be silenced. Now you have people in proximity, and when you have people in proximity, you can have
angry people.
You have angry people in proximity that are not just angry at the issues, but they're starting to hate each other.
Yeah,
and that civil unrest occurs in that situation. And
well, like the conversation that we've had about Civil War and stuff, even on the podcast, that's actually a pretty universal thought on the right. That's not like a wild thought. It seems like there's a lot of people that are expecting it and kind of now starting to, like, the tension seems to be pushing a little more forward. For example, Robert O'Neill, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with, but
I don't know. No,
he's the SEAL that was part of DevGru that made the kill shot on
again?
Rob O'Neill.
I've heard the name, don't know his face.
Yeah, so SEAL Team 6. He was on the Bin Laden raid, and he's the one who put the bullet officially into Bin Laden as far as the assassination. He's starting to rile a lot of people up as far as like when the time comes, like, we're ready and like who's with me, and everyone in the thread is just like, roger that, just let me know, like
standing by.
Yeah, there's a lot
to fight the BLM.
A lot of people just like literally just
or just to show their side, I guess, in a sense of standing their ground.
Well, you have to understand that, like, what's happening in the cities is, like, extremely violent right now, and there's a lot of impending threats on Marxist ideas and this idea of communism spreading through the country. And there's a lot of people who are pretty aware of what's going on, and they see this as a very pinnacle moment in American history, where if this continues, there's just a lot of people out there that are seeing direct threats to their way of life, to their Bill of Rights as far as religious freedoms, freedom of speech, and we're seeing it. It's very evident. I mean, we've talked about it before on the podcast too. It's not a hyperbole. Yeah, where it's just kind of this crazy idea, and where I initially thought when we first talked about it, I was like, we're just forecasting here, maybe for 10 years ago. But what I'm seeing on Twitter and on some of these podcasts and stuff is tension's really high, and a lot of these veterans I think they're starting to, like, they're pretty aware of what's going on. So very interesting stuff. I thought it was very interesting because we talked about Civil War, and we're pretty much just a firefight away from starting these faction wars. I mean, whether it's Proud Boys or veterans or just men and women waving a flag, I mean, we're one exchange away from a right versus left faction war. Who's part of it? Who knows? But I mean, there's just these groups that are just going to start happening across the country.
The shot heard around the world. The shot that started the Concord and Lexington event that is going to be remembered as it started when this happened.
Yeah.
But Will, didn't your, and you don't have to talk about it if you don't want, but I remember you telling me that you had information that the U.S. military was actually drilling on civil unrest. Is that?
Yeah, I talked about this.
Yeah.
Well, I hope the NSA isn't going to kill me, but so I have a.
They might take your boots too.
Yeah, maybe it's them.
They're the one in your closet.
Yeah, that's who's been in there.
That's right. The NSA's in my closet.
Listening to my calls and my emails, which they are, but I mean, mine specifically because of this. So I have.
They're going old school. They're just right behind the wall.
Exactly. Yeah, I have a contact. Not going to say where he works specifically to protect him, but he's...
Yeah, don't even say what branch or anything.
No, I'm not saying that. He's in the government. He has top secret clearance. and trusted. I mean, he's one of my good buddies, so I definitely trust him, and he's never lied to me about anything. So I'm going to assume that what he's telling me is, actually happening. So he's telling me that the military is starting to train their soldiers for or their troops for civil unrest, like getting civil unrest training, and that's under wraps though. That's not supposed to be public knowledge.
Right.
That that they're getting this training because they don't want people, seeing like, oh, if the military is training for this, then
This is getting real.
This is getting real.
Right.
But yeah, they're starting to receive, at least in certain units.
Wow.
That they're getting civil unrest training to prepare for a situation. So yeah, it's not even like a worst case scenario. This is like a
more of a when
contingency
than an
plan.
if.
Yeah, it's okay. So when this stuff hits the fan, we have our dudes that know what to do and how to deploy and how to deal with this.
At a bare minimum, even if it's not a when instead of an if, it's that they're seeing it as a very real possibility of it happening, and it's not just a bunch of crazy people talking on their podcast going, "Oh man, this is going to be it," and this is going to. They're like, "No, this could really, it could hit the fan, and we've got to be ready for it more than just some weird theory.
Yeah.
We have to have current con ops on it. You have to have current training on it, so that when we say, execute Order 66, you guys go out there and do your stuff to put down these civil unrest.
And it's not a special forces thing. It's like
they're
probably
reserves.
This is just normal everyday soldiers that are getting trained in this.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it's not just special units.
Just the fact that you even know about this probably means it's more popular than you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was really like top classified information,
I have some top classified information. But this is more of the hey, this is hush hush. So don't tell anybody.
If it's troop wide, it can't be too hush hush because thousands, tens of thousands of men and women know about it. There,
but what he's told me is that there is amongst the ranks that like you don't tell anybody about this. Like don't go home.
Right.
Don't be telling your friends.
Right.
Obviously he did.
Right.
But,
especially somebody with a podcast.
Yeah. Don't be telling them.
Don't tell you anything.
Yeah, because it's.
Make sure it doesn't end up as the headline on the title card for the YouTube video.
Yeah, exactly.
Military trains for civil unrest.
Yeah, exactly.
Film at 11.
Yeah. So it's a concern, and I have some other stuff that he's told me about that I can share too if you want to get into that. But we can finish with the civil unrest and we can get into it.
It's related to that. Otherwise,
it's not really. It's more just about tensions with China and Russia and stuff that they have that we're really worried about. But we can get into that in another episode even.
Yeah, I think that might be another. Might be good. If we come around to it,
we've done so much World War III. We can probably shelf that one.
Yeah. I think the civil unrest is pretty interesting because I wouldn't really have guessed this would have been a thing before that BLM guy with the AK in Austin got shot. And when that happened, I was like, I don't think that's a shot heard around the world, but I think that might affect these people who are in these cities. And I think it's showing because they're initiating violence, which I'm sure from their perspective is like, we're being hunted now by Republicans, because that was the story that was spun in Austin, is that this Texan, came through Austin and started gunning down
Garrett. So Garrett Foster was the one who got shot. Right? Yeah.
So the guy who shot him, which was a self-defense, from a car, because Garrett Foster was on top of his hood with an AK-47 pointing it at him.
Right, and it was loaded, right?
I believe so.
Even if it wasn't,
it doesn't matter. Still assault.
I'm pretty sure you could argue that it would be
doesn't matter.
Intent to. I don't know what
I don't think. I don't even know if you could argue it. I think it's like that's definitive fact. That's if you point a gun in somebody's face.
If you had a reasonable belief that it was loaded, which you would.
Now, so whether his rifle was armed or not, there was someone in the crowd that returned fire after the drive. So there was loaded rounds in that crowd, So
that's true.
I think the danger level of these protests are getting pretty out of hand. And I think it's kind of showing in the last week, because with just the attacks on the Republican protests on the initiating, I just think it's showing tension from both sides, and from what I see, at least on Twitter and stuff, is just people are just going ballistic. And it doesn't help. There's just a lot of things happening right now. I mean, there's this whole thing with Bill Clinton with the Jeffrey Epstein thing, and pretty much being confirmed that, he was involved in that whole mess, and he's speaking at the DNC, and
yes,
the whole right is just, you're having a pedophile at your convention, and then there's there's a lot of this like thing of like save the children that is going on the right side, where there's like this activism of, there's a lot of kids being kidnapped or assaulted or violated, and a lot of people are very upset about that. And
I mean, the Epstein stuff is pure evil.
Yeah.
It's pure
disgusting.
evil.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, it's absolute evil stuff that I don't know how anybody could be on one side or the other. I don't know how anybody could necessarily be on one side or the other of abortion, but I there are people that make. I don't know how anybody could make any argument that would say, well, Jeffrey Epstein's Island, it was actually good for the kids. It gave them no, it was bad news, and
well, I think
some really high profile people.
Including Bill Clinton. I mean, it's just completely out there. It's not even like that's, a conspiracy. Like, he was definitely involved in those island visits. It was logged multiple times.
Yep.
And that guy was speaking at the DNC,
Wow.
And the left is completely putting it down. But, again, from what I'm seeing on Twitter, is just everyone from Charlie Kirk to all these, JT Lewis and all these very high-end guys that are very involved in all this stuff are going straight at Bill Clinton, because he is one of the pedophiles that was on that island. There's really no going around that at this point. Yeah. It's like kind of being gaslighted on the left, where like, this guy's fine. This was, he was not involved, and so there's a lot of disgust again, if you're a human being, and you know about this, and this guy is alive, and he's giving
good evidence
speeches at the the DNC, there's a lot of people who are very upset. I mean, to the point where they're not okay with this. It's kind of like the what happened to George Floyd from the left side. Where everyone's like, this was murder. A lot of people on the right, like, this guy is involved with pedophiling kids. And it's a lot of people are very upset about it, and there's a lot of tension in that side on that they're putting towards the left, as you're allowing this, your administration's allowing this,
right?
And,
so
go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no,
I was gonna say, and if I'm correct in this, what I think I might be, it wasn't just like pedophilia; it was like some ritualistic, demonic stuff that was going on in Epstein's Island, right?
I don't know how much is credible, as far as like what's evident or not, but there was a video released that showed them all in kind of these robes type of thing around the fire of a statue.
Yeah, that sounds demonic to me.
Well, I mean, and the sex and sex magic are always a part of things like this that are literally demonic rituals. They always are, and they're not separate. It's not like, was that a sexual satanic ritual or a non-sexual? No, they're always together, and it's always it's going to get twisted. But there's always, let's put it this way, a victim. Now, in the Catholic idea, the victim is Christ giving himself for humanity to save the world. This is a victim on the altar in a different way. Let me put it that way, okay? But no, but these are 15-year-old girls that
7, 8.
that too, and at a minimum, we know that he's just going to these schools and recruiting these girls, and then going back and saying, tell your friends, to come next time. Like, this guy, he's operating at this level of, I don't know if it's narcissism, but it's certainly hubris, where he knows he from what I can tell from the stories, he seemed to think that he was covered. These guys owe me something. All these people, I've got stuff on them. They're going to get my back. They're going to cover me. So I don't have to worry about getting pinched on this stuff. He seemed to have that attitude about it until he didn't. Yeah. And then he ended up not alive anymore with a neck break that's kind of impossible to have from a noose.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Am I right?
Yep. Yeah. And
I don't. So what's just confirmed right now, is that Epstein is evidently a pedophile, and he did have this sex ring of child trafficking. To this island. That's 100% facts.
Right.
Nothing on that is theorized.
No. Right.
Bill Clinton is 100% associated with going to those islands and interacting with Epstein's foundations and all his organizations that involve this trafficking. There's a lot of other people on that list, but Bill Clinton was logged for those flights that was on those islands.
Now, I got to tell you, I was in college in 1992 when Bill Clinton first ran for president, and things came out very, very early in the campaign, especially in the presidency, that I don't want to say were like this, but they were like this enough where you'd go, this is confirmed. We've got, that guy did not commit suicide, right? And this is tied right back to whether it be Hillary Clinton's law firm, the Rose Law Firm, or directly to Bill or something like that, mostly Hillary, but there's something to do with the Clintons. Yeah. And they were like the Teflon Dons. I mean, stuff would just fall off of them. Nothing would stick, and it is. So you tell me that all of that, all of that. We can probably catalog almost a dozen things that are high profile. I got you red-handed, ready for the arrest type of thing, and it slides off like Teflon. And I was originally in my earlier years kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, it's going to get bad.
Yeah.
It's going to get bad and really bad, and nobody's going to be able to turn a blind eye when you're dealing with like kids or something.
Can we take the Clintons on a hike into Ape Mountain
and separate them? Separate them. Canyon? Bill, you walk down there for a little while. Yeah. Don't worry about tying your boots. You won't need them. You won't need
I heard there's some lost kids up this path.
That's right. Right. There were some lost kids. Right. We saw some kids up there. Yeah. You might want to go check it out. So that's all a joke, Secret Service. But it still slides. They still seem to get away with it, both within the authorities. I don't see any prosecutions. I don't see any indictments.
Nope.
I see some talk about investigations from Comey and stuff, and from the court of public opinion. Jack, to your point, he's speaking at the DNC. Yep. That nobody thought, maybe this year we just don't bring Bill Clinton. Yeah. Maybe we just leave him off. We got some other people we can.
That would have happened even if he was just like theorized to be associated with this whole Epstein case.
Absolutely, and he's up there basically saying,
well, he's endorsing Joe Biden,
and you can't touch me. It's almost like, again, this hubris of, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going to pretend nothing was wrong. Yeah. Because I don't know whether he thinks something went wrong or not. I don't know his heart or his mind, but he comes across as, you know what? People are probably making some stuff up. People, let's just pretend like that doesn't happen. Let's talk about the really important thing, Joe Biden. Yeah. Right. And so I'm not surprised. And I'm not surprised. I do think, though, that anybody who's got a contract with the devil, either literally or implicitly, and I do think that's a situation here with the Clintons, because you don't get these types of perks in life without making some deal.
I was going to say that the two things that you get from these things are you get money and you get power.
That's right. Yep. You get money, you get power, and the if the ritualized stuff's in there too, it ties it all up. Yeah. But there is a time when the devil's done with you and he throws you under the bus. And I'm not waiting with that with anticipation or anything. I hope that I pray the Clintons convert. I pray the Clintons convert and that they atone and repent, and they spend eternity in heaven. But there will be a time where the piper will have to be paid.
I think that's definitely going to happen with anybody. But in this election, we have Hillary Clinton joining the administration, and we have these guys endorsing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And I think it's kind of like, if you're going to talk about the election this year, you have to take this into consideration on who you're voting for and what people you want in office running our country right now. Yeah. And I think it's pretty clear that the Democratic Party right now is just filled with disgust and evil, and they have no good intentions for the American people. There's absolutely there's just no way. And everything they're talking about is they're endorsing Joe Biden as a great leader, someone to take us out of this pandemic and solve all these racial issues and stuff. This guy doesn't know what state he's in. It's not even like he might have senile thing. Like he literally cannot function on screen. I don't think anyone's even second guessing this. And we have Barack Obama, Michelle Biden, the Clintons, all these senators.
Obama. You said Biden.
Oh yeah, sorry. Michelle Biden. Yeah, I've been listening to Joe Biden.
Michelle
Biden. Yeah.
That's a bumper sticker.
That
man.
is,
Yeah.
Vote for Michelle Biden.
Yeah. So all these people endorsing him as this great leader that is going to fix all these problems, and I mean, it's just so evident that this guy can't lead us out of these unprecedented times. I mean, so we're going to vote for Joe Biden in this situation, you know?
Well, so let me ask the question: does it matter? What I mean by that is, let's say that all of the country listens to what you just said, Jack, and they all say, Jack's right. We've got to make sure that Trump wins in 2020. And Trump wins in 2020.
Yeah. And then what's 2024?
Exactly, Mike, thank you. And then 2024 comes, 4 short years away. And will the Democratic Party have gone through its own, conversion in those 4 years, and all of a sudden they're better and they've got better people and stuff? Is it going to be, I don't know if it's going to be worse, but I can't believe that it's going to be any different than it is now. It's going to be the same or worse.
Let's just hope the illumination of conscience happens.
Yeah, possibly. So if the warning comes between now and then, which it should actually, but
and explained in the future podcast, by the way.
We will explain that. Yes, asterisk.
Yes,
the warning. My point is, does it matter? In other words, I'm all for taking the action so that you can live to fight another day, right? So let's win and live for another 4 years. But in 4 years, the way the trajectory is handling right now, it's either now or it's going to be then. Without some type of divine intervention, which is always possible, but without that type of intervention, I almost feel defeated at this point. Not necessarily a pessimist, but to say, I don't know if it'll matter. It might buy us a couple more years, or will it? Or will it be the Tinder?
Also, even if it is in 4 years, I think we also then Trump can't re-elect or can't run again. Right. So then no one has the fame like Trump does to run against the Democratic Party.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are kind of noticing this, and this is why this tension is rising so heavily in these cities right now, especially when you have these veterans that are like, we know what's going on. Like, we're not freaking dumb, Yeah. Like, we've been involved in this. We're very well known, among the communities. A lot of these guys like Marcus Luttrell and Rob O'Neill have these conversations with a lot of these candidates.
You know what? We need a former SEAL to be president.
Dan Crenshaw. We need a
former SEAL.
Who's in Congress. I don't know if you know who Dan Crenshaw is.
I don't.
He represents Houston, right?
He represents Houston.
Congressional district in Houston.
Because I don't think things can go wrong.
Yeah, he got shot.
Really?
Yeah, he got shot.
Oh man,
that's or was he an operator?
We need Nick Fury. We need Dan Crenshaw.
Or you just have Nick Fury. You're right. Dan Crenshaw is Nick Fury.
Yeah, we need him.
He's totally Nick
to
Fury.
be the president.
We definitely do.
Because I don't think we can be with all the training and the just everything that they get and all the life experience that they receive and the leadership
from exactly from the officers.
I don't think we could be led
storytelling.
Yeah, exactly. MrBallen for president 2020.
That's right.
No, I don't know if we could be led astray with that.
Well,
and who's gonna mess with the SEAL?
Yeah,
China's gonna be like, oh my gosh, why am I killed by him personally?
Well, good point, because it was Trump's the guy to make sure that he takes care of our economy. He's the businessman. He's the negotiator. He's not institutional as far as an institutional politician. And right now, in 2016, those were legitimate concerns, right?
Yeah, they were.
And he actually took care of a lot of them. If you want to attribute the economic increases to Trump's policy, some people don't, that's fine. But things have been going pretty well. But now, are we still in a spot where we care most about the economy, or are we in a spot where we have more dangerous foes and more dangerous things that we have to fight against, that maybe somebody like a Dan Crenshaw is our, the great monarch type of guy that will rise and lead us. That's something beyond the stock market and beyond the China negotiations and trade.
I just looked him up. He's 100% 20 years from being Nick Fury.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. Sorry.
No, I think more instead of economy, more on the civil rights on the table when it comes to the point. That's like what we're fighting for now.
Well, so what's the when you talk about this being inevitable, you know, on these scales of is in 2024 is this Democratic Party that's gone completely haywire and corrupt?
Right.
Is that just going to go away in 2024? And a lot of people are not thinking that
I
it
don't
is.
think it will.
I don't think it will.
And I think so. I mean, again, you talk about just the tension between these two parties right now. I mean, at least from what I'm seeing on Twitter, which is it's a way more enlightening thing you do, or you can witness, because you just see thousands of people just saying what they think.
Right.
And some people are just people that have no following, and then some people have these check marks like Rob O'Neill, Charlie Kirk, JT Lewis, all these guys who are all saying the same thing, where like, our country depends on this election. And what happens afterward is how we go forward. And no one's really seeing BLM Inc. and Antifa and the Democrats, you know, in-house and in Congress backing down in any little way. Because if Trump gets reelected, their fear is just going to be 4 more years. I mean, they're already mad about him, you know, so they're already they're going to go up even more.
So damned if you do, damned if you don't, damned if Trump wins, damned if he loses, Biden wins.
Yep, that's just it.
Well,
I don't think there's a win for America right now.
Without some hope.
Without some divine. Well, so here's the hope, right? I mean, this is what the conservatives are thinking right now.
Yeah,
is that if this does rise into the hope is there's the people who are like, Trump's going to get reelected. We're going to be fine. You know, we're
back to normal.
It's going to be back to normal. It's going to be 4 more years. You know, we're going to be America. You know, and then there's the people who are kind of like really paying attention to all this stuff, and they're like, this is just going to keep escalating if Trump gets it. You know, so it's either Trump gets elected and the revolution rises even higher, which is just a Marxist revolution. I mean, it's not new, you know, and everyone in the Democratic Party is just on board, you know, and we have all these tech companies and people who are very involved in all that. If Biden's administration wins, it kind of is like almost a win for Marxism, you know. So now we have 4 years of an administration which is already corrupt and pro-Marxism, especially Kamala Harris. And I don't know the tactics in the Democratic Party, but it's pretty bizarre that we have a candidate that can't speak, you know, and is really just a heart attack away from dying. You know?
I think there's a reason for that. Meaning that Kamala Harris, well, I think Biden's being chosen to be more of the pawn, and he's kind of the face of everything when people are more behind him, playing him as a puppet.
Yeah, because in a year he's not going to know his first name.
I don't think he may even still be here. And the point of
TaylorMarshall said, Mike, that he said this months ago, that whoever Biden picks will be our next president, because the Democratic the party is going to say, you know, well done, good and faithful soldier. Now you quit, because and then let the vice president take over, because you're not going to be able to actually do the job.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That it's going to. So if Biden wins, Kamala Harris is the next president of the United States.
I would say so.
Radical,
or just whoever else is on the
very pro-Marxist, very anti-Catholic, very pro-abortion.
I also don't know if it'll be a 4-year gap, in the sense that we've been saying that, like, if Trump wins, we have 4 years, something else happens, or vice versa. I think that if Trump wins, then there's more of a revolt that happens of either then he gets pushed out, or, you know, the Civil War revolution starts happening. Because I really think it is just someone with enough say has to say something for the whole side to just start their attack or action.
So I think how it's going down is what's just showing this week is that we're on the fringe of these faction wars where there's no organized army, you know, like we did when we saw in the first Civil War, like Universe Confederacy. It's going to be this faction war of anyone on the right to pretty much anyone on the left.
It's a large gang war.
Yeah, that is
Crips and Bloods.
Exactly. That it could just be isolated in neighborhoods.
Right.
I mean, you just see pockets. I
No
mean, it could be like
armies.
this underground, you know, of just. It doesn't have to be veterans. I mean, most veterans are on the right, so we have that experience and we have this knowledge of people who know combat and know how real this is, and they're speaking out. And they're all ready to throw lead, but which that should be more of a security thing, is that we have people on our side who know what they're doing. But we do have a lot of Americans that are just wielding Second Amendments that are also fed up with this.
Yeah.
And you got to talk about people too that are being affected by the economy and the COVID lockdowns.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these
Which is a lot.
Yeah, and especially these business owners who are barely holding on. They're barely feeding their families. I mean,
they're the backbone of America. I
Yeah.
mean, they're the backbone of our economy, and it's way more people than I think the news is even like, giving
way more. If you see the
credence to it.
if you see like videos of just people going down New York, I mean, the streets are just destroyed. Like all the businesses are absolutely destroyed.
Even if you think about the restaurant industry, especially in places like New York, and this has been talked about a good amount in not the mainstream news, but in like YouTube people that are like, talking, that a lot of places that are tourism heavy, like New York, most of those restaurants rely on tourists. And with this whole COVID thing and even after COVID's, quote unquote over, if you think that's even a possibility of, fully eradicating, that the zeitgeist, if you will, around travel, the new like guidelines and ideas and how we should do it, and it's not going to be as booming as it was before. We're never going to go back to that true normal of a vacation a year, and we're going like to different countries and extravagance and spending all this money, especially if our economy's tight and their economies are tight.
They're already in so much of a margin too that
that's what I was going to get to is that restaurants, they make like I think I might be wrong here, but if I remember correctly, it's on the best days, like the best of the best days, it's a 10% margin.
Yeah.
But usually they're operating from a 2 to a 5% margin.
So on average,
it's really low. And so if you take away tourism, think about how many restaurants are in New York City alone. I mean, so many. And a lot of them are mom and pop shops. A lot of them are mom and pop setups that aren't McDonald's or chains, and if they're not, the top on Bon Appetit or whatever, people aren't going to be going there. And
even
tourists,
even if you think about it, even if they are, they have to operate now at 25% capacity, so they can only take 25 customer, 1/4 the customer load they should be having, which has to be affecting their margins.
And, and then also the
which, by the way, I was in a Tex-Mex restaurant a couple weeks ago, and it said no more than 25. There was like 75 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I'm not turning this business down.
You're right. Yeah. Well, that's just it. That's the attitude of these businesses, because their lives depend on it. Their family depends on it.
And it actually goes up one more level, because you're absolutely right. All of the restaurants, absolutely right.
Yeah.
Think of a place like Orlando, Florida, the whole state of Florida, actually. There's no state income tax in Florida. Now, there's no state income tax in Texas because we have oil and gas, okay? Which isn't doing too well. But, oil and gas is still going to pay the bills for the most part.
People have cars.
People have cars. Yes. But Florida doesn't have a state income tax because of tourism. And that's why you pay this extra like 11% tourist tax when you go to anything that's labeled a resort or in special
World
places
whatever,
like Orlando or special areas. And that feeds up to the state level. And so the residents do not have to pay a state income tax. Well, there's a whole bunch of people that moved to Florida just for that reason, where they decided to play in the Miami Heat because they were going to get a state income tax.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that might change in places like Nevada and Florida.
I didn't even think about Nevada, where their entire existence is tourism.
But then now every resident is affected. And so it is affecting the mom and pops, but that there is a ripple. There is a ripple that we're all that we can all feel eventually.
Yeah. And also, talk about a ripple, just the supply chains have been so messed up that for small businesses are not a priority, especially restaurants. So, getting the right ingredients, even like Mad Taco, they've had to cut a lot of their menu because Mad Taco's a local place around here. It's a really good taco place. But they've had to cut a lot of their menu items just because I think it's beef and what's the other one?
Beef's up like $2.
Yeah, there's another meat too. I can't remember what it is, but a lot harder to get. So they're cutting a lot of that stuff just because it costs a lot.
Well,
more.
Interesting story. Mom went to a monastery up in Oklahoma for a couple days, and I think we had all heard the stories about how farmers, because of the supply lines, they couldn't get their goods to market. And so they had to plow their crops under, or they had to euthanize chickens, or their
Tyson
cattle.
had to do like 3 million, I think, or something like that. Yeah.
And so I didn't realize this, but when Mom went to the monastery, the monks were giving her these, cardboard crates of food, of dairy and of produce. And Mom said, "What's this?" And they told her, Well, the federal government pays these farmers for their dairy goods and for their produce, and the farmers the federal government pays the farmers. Then the federal government takes the food and distributes it to folks that can use it. Now, I don't know how all that works and stuff, but the monastery was clearly on the list. And the monastery says, we have too much. We have so much. And, these guys, they don't, they rely on stuff like this. They think they may store it away. They go, we are over capacity. This stuff's going to go bad. Please take it. Please take it. Please take it.
The wine cellar and the wine cellar is full.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Right. So there are these little programs going on to try to save the farmers, to try to save the ranchers, that the federal government's trying to put their money into, that I had never heard of before. I didn't, now the entire United States is a federal disaster zone still, a disaster area. So maybe it's under a FEMA law or something like that. But there's only so much that the federal government can prop up the mom and pop, the farmer, et cetera, until the house of cards starts falling down.
Yep.
So I'm actually more worried about the fact that the government's paying the farmers than I would be if they weren't. I feel bad for the farmers, obviously, but it's just going to be a Band-Aid
Well,
until
also,
more stuff falls.
what's also kind of concerning is what a lot of people are spending their money on now is the non-essentials. So, which is kind of interesting. Like the non-essential businesses, like renovation companies, roofing companies, the pool companies have been getting so much business. They're booming. But all these other like a day-to-day essentials after the quarantine and stuff ends are not getting any business. So you're going to get I think we're going to get a really weird kind of economic imbalance where there's going to be a bunch of companies that are really rich, like Spike, like the pool companies, but then after COVID, nobody's going to be touching them anymore because they already did all the renovations. And then there's going to be like not enough money in all the essential stuff that when we do start going out to restaurants and stuff like that again, like, well, there's just not either enough or they're just really messed up in there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That 100%. I could totally see that happening. Yeah. What's kind of more, there's this also fight between the people and a lot in the administration in DC in general is the left strongly wants more lockdowns. They want the schools to be closed. They want, Joe Biden's saying that he wants to mandate masks at a federal level for your safety, regardless of your rights. He's saying for your safety, which should be an alarming statement, because he's basically saying for your safety, we're going to put your rights to the side. And, with Marxist ideas is that you just take that little by little, it's like it's a death by 10,000 cuts.
I do wonder though in America how well that would work, because I do think that most Americans, so like the mask thing, some people can take a knee on that. I think a lot of people can go, it's a mask. All right. Whatever. And I don't think that's honestly enough precedent for like taking away your guns or something like that more serious. Because we're going to go, okay, yeah, the mask was one thing, but you can't do that because we're just going to come kill you now.
They're not going to go from mask to gun.
I know,
right?
I know, but I do think the American populace, the stuff that is really, like the essential rights, they're important enough that as soon as that even starts to get talked about, red flags go up on everybody that go, okay, yeah, I know what you're doing.
Go ahead.
Well, I think we may have
maybe not California though, but I think middle America.
Go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say I think there's a lot of things the left has done recently that we would have thought would have never happened, or we would have been alarmed a long time ago, and yet they're still here and we're still living amongst it. So I think it could just be
like churches closing.
Sure, I mean there's a lot of things, a lot of the new mandates and even masks. I don't think if 5 years ago you just said masks nationwide would be. You can't go to a grocery store without wearing a mask, or you have to have your hand sanitizer on you and stuff.
Yeah, like let me give you that narrative, right? So here's the narrative. They told us to stay home, not go to work, put stuff on our face, use special chemicals on our hands, and we just all did it.
Yeah.
That's I think that's now whether that's an accurate narrative or not, I don't know. But to Mike's point, if anybody is watching and they go, "Oh, that's actually quite easy," right? Yeah. So all I've got to do is, keep them in a state of panic or fear, and they seem to say, I'll do what you want me to do. Now, you're right. I don't see it going to, and can I have your AR-15, please?
Yeah, and that was a little hyperbolic.
No, Rogue, it's not, because in Philadelphia, it's, with the defunded police that's happening, the mayor is saying, turn in your weapons so it doesn't fall into criminals who break in your house and steal your weapons.
Are you serious?
I read something about that.
Serious,
Yeah.
and there's
All right. Well, there you go.
A mass amount of people turning in their weapons
Wow.
for safety.
They are?
Wow.
Yeah. No, I'm dead serious.
They're actually turning them
They're
in.
turning in their weapons.
Well,
Yeah,
but
there
there's
you go.
another out of camp say.
And that's how you do it. For the sake of everybody's, for the sake of charity, brother, turn in your gun so that your brother and your neighbor doesn't get shot. Well, you're right. You're right. That's why I have to wear a mask, because I want to make sure my neighbor doesn't get sick.
Yeah, I'm giving Americans too much credit.
Well,
No, maybe I'm just thinking from the Texas mindset. If you did it in Texas, we'd go,
I think it's
right, buddy. Here's
I
my
wouldn't be surprised.
airsoft gun painted with a black tip, and that's my gun.
That's Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's true. I wouldn't be surprised if at a point, Texas is like, all right, we're out, and we just step back.
Yeah, we should.
And we're our own country now.
We should,
Well,
to be
we
honest,
make-
before everyone
and Dan
migrates
Crenshaw,
here, because
that's true. We close our borders
from
now.
Seattle, from the guy you talked to, that's just one person. But I know from California, there's just this mass movement of people.
Oh, huge.
Not just, actually among celebrities, but among just the common people who are just like, we need to get out of here.
A lot of Californians,
and they're just picking Texas, Yeah,
sorry. A lot of Californians are sending their kids to Texas schools now, like Baylor and SMU and all that. Just because they're tired, and a lot of them are Republicans that are like, we just can't be here anymore, so we need to start because they don't trust the. I worked at the Baylor bookstore for a little bit, and I was talking to some of the new people coming in, their parents. I was like, so why are you guys all coming to Texas? Like, well, because the schools here teach socialist ideals. Public schools, the colleges, like it's not even kind of like masked socialism. It's like they like on their.
You mean in
curriculums-
California?
Yeah,
Okay.
like full socialist ideas. It's like, we don't trust them educating our kids, so we're sending them out of state to Texas because we know they're going to get a good education there, and then we're planning on moving here.
Can I actually jump on that real
go
fast?
ahead.
Because, we have kids that are still in the high school and lower public schools, and one of the reasons, actually the main reason that we said we picked the virtual option was not because we were afraid that people are going to get sick, but because of everything that's been changing so quickly this year. We didn't know what the public school teachers and the administration and the curriculum that comes out of that were going to try to teach our kids. Now, I've said before, schools are awesome at indoctrination. They're awesome at indoctrination. And when you're on the side where you like what they're teaching you, if they're teaching you prayer in school and how to salute the flag and say the pledge and everything, you're like, this is good. You're teaching my kids the things that I would want to teach them, the cult and culture. And I don't mean these things in negative or pejorative ways, the cult and culture of the way I want them to be raised and the way I want them to believe. So they're very good at that. And it also means that when they're indoctrinating their kids against the things that you believe in, they're just as effective.
Yeah.
Now, Mom and I were saying, I don't know, we could be overreacting, but let's just wait for 6 weeks and see, okay? Because we can see on the Zooms and stuff, we'll have a better sense. Well, a teacher did a private tweet.
Do you know where this was, by the way? I've heard the story. I just don't know where the teacher teaches.
I have a feeling that it's New York, so maybe, we don't actually have to worry about it here in Texas.
Gotcha.
But this did happen where a private tweet that was saying to other teachers, I'm really, really worried about the virtual option for my students because parents are now going to see what we're teaching them, and there's no way we're going to be able to get the correct civil rights language across to students and get them to believe what we want them to believe. I'm not making words up. Get them to believe what we want them to believe because their parents are going to be too conservative and they're going to be budging in and ruining everything we're trying to do.
Wow.
We need to make sure that the kids do not tell their parents this, but we can't tell the kids not to tell their parents if the parents are right there. That thing went out, from a private tweet. And so that's when Mom told me that story, and I said,
Yep.
okay, well, it's not a College Station school, but you know what? I am still looking. I'm still waiting, and I'm still watching. And I don't know how we got around to this. I remember I just wanted to jump on the comment
I
about.
actually kind of want to ride this for a little bit.
Go ahead.
So what I find really interesting, and I know this is like every homeschooler is hip to this, that they're like, yeah, this is why we homeschool. That the state and schools have seemed to think that parents are unfit to be parents, and that the state is the only thing that can actually teach their that parents don't have the know-how anymore to be able to raise their kids, and the only way for them to actually learn how to be good human beings is to be indoctrinated in these state schools and state systems, and that what the parents teach them at home is wrong, and in the classroom we need to be teaching them something else so to make sure that they grow
and
up
get
correctly.
them away from the parents.
Exactly.
Get them away and keep them, make sure they don't talk to the parents,
which is
separate
insane.
them, which is, I think, item number 37 on the
BLM.
On the communist, on the actual communist playbook. I'm not making this up. There actually is something that's in the Federal Register that is like the known ways. Tactic number 37.
Yeah.
Make sure that the state is seen as smarter, more friendly, an object of your loyalty more than the family.
Wow.
Drive the children away toward the state, which is exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
That's exactly,
I believe it.
Parents,
which I think is insane, because I do think there's actually a lot of people that kind of think that now. That, that the state knows better than I do. And at the end of the day, whether you're objectively right or wrong, they're your kids, you're their parents, and you have every right. It's a God-given right, even if you don't believe in God, that it's just an inalienable natural right that they are your children. You teach them how you see fit, to an extent. If you're abusing them or something, obviously
that's not teaching them. That's abuse.
Yeah. But if you're teaching them, like, kill them, anyway.
No, but the idea is that the parents are the first teachers, and the school is supposed to supplement the subject matter that the parents cannot do on their own.
Yes, because they don't know how to do calculus, possibly.
Right. Not the other way around. And that, I've heard, is the argument of saying, well, why are you going to homeschool your kids? Do you know how to teach them calculus?
Yeah. Now,
let's just say I do, but a lot of parents don't, and they're so afraid, and they say, I don't know how to teach them physics. I don't know how to teach them chemistry. They're never going to get into Harvard. I better make sure they just go to the school. Well, because you know what? I'm really ripping. They believe the lie to say I'm ripping my kids off, as opposed to I'm throwing them to the wolves.
Yeah. So this is pretty funny, because there's a lot of like school administrators from all different places, from like the college level, from the elementary level, from the school board, from the superintendents, that have left and switched to homeschooling, and that were like really indoctrinated into the system, believed in the system. And after so long, they realize like this is such a crooked system, that they'll come out and open. I've heard it so many times. They'll come out and openly say that pretty much the exact same thing. That if you just read your kid a good book, like every day, you're actually doing more than if they stay in public school, because they're actually learning more than they would learn.
You know
in
what happened
school.
As a result of the lockdown, down. I heard a lot of people who are not pro homeschool in an ideological sense say, I didn't realize how little my kid was actually learning in school. I don't like that. And it wasn't like I can do better. It was, I don't want to send them back and have them doing this all day.
Yep. Pushing papers. And that's why I left high school and started college early, was because I was like, I'm literally doing nothing. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn or say I'm a genius or anything like that. I'm just saying that like I just was not at all stimulated, and I'm somebody that needs to be stimulated or I get pretty miserable. And I was the most depressed I've ever been in my life in high school, because like all they're making me do is worksheets that I've done in second grade, and I'm in high school. I'd have to start to entertain myself especially in English class, I'd start to write papers that were so complicated and so above my teacher's like comprehension level. I'd be writing about quantum physics and relativity and special relativity and stuff like that, that I'd know that like they literally couldn't understand what I was saying, so they'd have to give me a good grade, because they would just go, I don't know what this is. They couldn't challenge me. Well, it worked. It worked. And I remember doing it for my my final, because we had to write a research paper in sophomore year of high school, and
Hannah's smiling.
Hannah knows the story. And so I thought, I'm like, okay, so I really don't want to do this, and I know at the time I was really into quantum physics and relativity and gravity and all that stuff. So if I write a paper on the misconceptions of gravity and how gravity actually works, and follow the rubric really well, then they won't be able to grade me. She won't be able to grade me on the content, and I'll have to get 100. So I did that. I wrote the paper in 2 hours. Didn't do any research because I knew it all, and then
could have made it up. I don't think it would have mattered.
Well, here's the thing. So I turned it in, get 100, and then I'm like, oh wow, I can't believe that worked. And comments all over it. This went way over my head. I don't even understand any of this. You make me feel stupid, but like smiley face stuff like and so I get it back and I read through it because I'm like, oh yeah, let's actually see what I wrote, because that was the first draft I wrote, turned it in, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many spelling errors, so many grammatical errors, and so it made me think she either went, I don't know if he's right and I'm wrong about what I'm reading. Like maybe there is a word that's "and" but with an "n" instead of an "n," or if she just went, yeah,
she read the title and she's like, no.
She read the first page, knew who I was, and then just checked it all off, wrote little snarky comments through it, or friendly comments.
And I have 100 other students I have to read their papers and actually think about it. So you know what? He followed the rubric. Sounds good. A.
Yeah, exactly.
And because it's all about seat time. Mike, didn't you actually have to make up seat time, and you weren't allowed to do any schoolwork while you were making up seat time? This is why it's not about education. It's about having your butt in the seat to get
so
the
they
federal
can get paid.
funding.
Yeah. So I had a concussion freshman year. And so I missed a few weeks. And then at the end of the year, like, hey, you need to make up. Luckily, I only had to do 3 hours. But in the 3 hours, I had to sit in like a classroom with a few other students doing it. And you can only do work that you brought. So if you brought your schoolwork, you can do it. If not, they'll give you like a word puzzle that you can do. You can't go on your phone. You can't sleep.
Can't read either, right?
You think you can read, but you have to bring the book. Gotcha. And if you want to use a computer, it has to be a school assignment. If not, then you'll lose your privilege. You can't talk to anybody. You can't really look at anybody. Just because I got a concussion, I couldn't be in school.
But you weren't making up any of the learning. You were just making up your butt being in a piece of wood.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with the teachers that I missed the class with. It was...
and you're a straight A student.
And I'm a straight,
Yeah, so it wasn't like, well, okay.
And
so
I got my makeup work back, and I finished it like the day I got it. I'm like, here's my work, here you go.
So the work was done, but the butt didn't get in the seat for long enough.
Exactly.
And that's what the federal government...
So the whole time I was actually just illustrating. A picture I saw on the wall.
It's really the Department of Education's fault.
Yeah.
Because that's what the federal funding is tied to. And under the Constitution, they can't force the state to educate the kids in a certain way.
Yeah, but they can...
It's called the carrot and stick. They can't use the stick, but they can use the carrot and say, oh, you want some of my money? Well, then you have to do these things. And everybody wants the money, so they do the things.
Well, I also remember being in high school, and there was stuff that she's like, well, this is actually really important to the curriculum, but I honestly just don't have time to teach you guys it because we have to prepare for the START test.
Oh, yeah. That's what happened to me, too.
Yeah.
So seat time and standardized testing. That's all.
So it was, hey, we actually need this to round out what we're actually teaching this year, but we're going to actually have to skip this entire section, this entire 6 weeks.
We're going to jump around the book now because we got to cover the highlights.
We have to get to standardized testing.
Good luck in college.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously.
No, it was, my teacher, she's like, hey, I know what basically, like, I know like the rough estimates on the test, so we're going to teach only that. And I'm like, well, then what is this class? It's the whole year. You're pretty much, they say at the beginning of the class, we're preparing you for the finals and the standardized testing that you'll get at the end of the year. That's the point of what we're teaching you for.
Yeah, parents, if you're listening to this and you have students, especially in middle school, but especially in high school, talk to them and ask them these same questions, and I bet you they'll give you the exact same stories or worse. And then it'll be up to you about what you want to do. I mean, we've made different decisions for different children, but it's real. It's real.
No, yeah, it's
broken.
Yeah,
it's broken.
It's really broken. And I honestly, in being in high school and being in public school and a little bit of Catholic school, through my younger education years, I can tell you that I really do think that reading good literature to your children you're learning more. You're learning more real world skills about how to think and how to talk correctly and learning ideas, and because in all public school is here's how you fill out a worksheet, and not even worksheets that are important, not tax forms, not how to get a loan and get your first car, not how to get an apartment, nothing like that. It's something stupid about, isn't this a cool little picture of a molecule, which you'll never actually end up using unless you're in advanced chemistry or you're trying to get your PhD or something, and
which you'll learn again.
Which you'll learn again. That was the thing I did a couple semesters at Harvard. They have this thing called the Extension School, and I got into that, and I was doing classes online with Harvard. And so one of the classes we had to take was a math class and a writing class, which was like the two prerequisites. You have to take these. Every student has to take them. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is middle school high school stuff. So all that stuff I learned in high school, I could have just
skipped.
I could have went to Harvard as a 13-year-old and would have gotten a better or same education.
I mean, I was helping you with the questions you were doing.
Yeah. No,
the Harvard class.
For real.
Or you just Google a Khan Academy and they'll teach you how to do it. It's like, okay, cool. And then you go back to
I'm not the best math person. And Mike really, I'm good at geometry, but algebra, I think it's one, my dyslexia, and two, just my brain just not great with algebra. Mike, I'm asking Mike over here, and he was probably 7th, 8th grade at the time. And I'm like, hey man, do you know? He's like, oh yeah, I know all about this. I'm like, thanks for helping me out. But yeah, you could, so all this stuff they teach you, it's not important, but two, you're gonna learn it again at the higher levels. So why not teach stuff that'll actually prepare you for when you're at those higher levels? Which is, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, the joke in the family, and the reason why we started this podcast is because somebody said you should record your conversations around your dinner table, after dinner, because they can go on for hours and they're kind of entertaining. But they said between the conversations at the dinner table and YouTube, I learned more than I've ever learned in school.
Yeah.
Like everything I know, I learned from there, and not anything from school. That was important.
Yeah.
So the literature, reading the literature, good literature, or exposing them, exposing people, or making what is it? Encouraging folks to have creative minds and inquiring minds and things like that. These are all skills you can build.
MattFradd, he's an avid homeschooler, he's a Catholic podcaster, and he homeschools his kids, and he's like, his son was outside playing in the dirt one day, and he's like finding worms and like trying to investigating them and like playing with ant stuff. He's like, well, that's his science lesson for today. And not even like he's being lazy or anything, but like he's actually learning more about the real world around him by interacting with it than he is by looking at a textbook or dissecting a dead animal. Right. He's going to go, okay, this is what this is, and I can see what it's doing, and I'm understanding more about
its
physics,
movement,
the natural, the natural world, its environment, how it contributes. It's because, I mean, kids are curiosity machines, and they're also like intake machines. Like everything they're a sponge. So if you just put them in these environments where they're not restricted, they don't have to sit down all day, they're free to explore things that they're interested in, of course with guidance, but if they're really interested in something, feed that curiosity, and you're going to end up with a way better rounded child, and way more inquisitive, and than putting them in a chair, and then if they can't sit still because they're 8, putting them on meth, putting them on Adderall, which is 1 proton away from methamphetamines, by the way, is saying that there's something wrong with their brain. You got to put them on this really hard drug to make them sit still, because they're
distracting the class.
They're distracting the class, and it's just not natural for an 8-year-old to not be able to sit in a chair for 8 hours. It's like, that's insane.
That is insane. We have stories about that. Your other brother who couldn't sit still. And he'd miss all this school because the school was like a prison for him, and he was enduring it. And then he'd make up 6 months worth of work in 2 weeks, and he'd get A's on it. So he wasn't a dummy. He was incredibly intelligent. It's just that you were trying to fit the square peg in the in the round hole, and if it didn't, I'm going to jam you in there.
I'm going to drug you.
And keep jamming you in there, or just let you sit there until you decide to get in there yourself. And that was like a prison. So So this is going to drop on tomorrow on the 20th, on Will's birthday, and Mom just sent me an article that says tomorrow afternoon, a solar storm headed for Earth. Now I'm not sure.
Scary.
I'm not sure. How big of a deal this is going to be, because we do get coronal mass injections
all the time. Yeah.
Ejections, not injections. That's Donald Trump. You got to put the light inside of him. Inject the light inside of him. So, coronal mass ejections all the time, but. I think of Knowing right away. Did you guys ever see the movie?
Me and Hannah were just about to watch that. I've seen it.
Watch it.
We were looking for a movie the other night. We ended up watching Schitt's Creek because that show's hilarious.
It is pretty funny. I love the actors. I love the style of comedy. I found that after 2 or 3 episodes, it was all the same for me. But but Knowing is I think an excellent movie, and it's actually more relevant today than it was in 2009.
Yeah,
with Nicolas Cage. Knowing with Nicolas Cage.
Well, probably his best movie.
Arguably.
Yeah. I think it's super underrated too.
Super underrated, and I think
free on Amazon.
Highly relevant. Yes, but only until September 1st.
Really?
It's coming off of Prime at the end of this month.
So we got another movie to watch.
You got to watch it.
It's great.
Yeah.
Really good.
Tommy and I watched it when he was like 6 or 7 when we were in Virginia, and he still remembers it. Yeah. It's a good movie. Good movie.
And now he's afraid of deer and fire in the woods.
Yeah, no, he thought it was a great movie.
No, yeah.
And he wanted to see it again, but
I'm never going on an airplane.
I know. Yeah, I'm going vegan. I'm hoping the angels come and take me over to a new planet.
Exactly. I'm gonna get a lot of
Spoiler
bunny
alert.
rabbits.
Bunny rabbit.
Yeah. And I'm gonna collect all the stones I can.
Right.
I do think.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, it's about the sun. That's all I'm going to say. It's about the sun. And if you remember, there was somebody back in 1959, and she was a little girl, and she was the seer that could hear the voices and do the code.
Yeah.
And her name was Lucinda.
Wow.
Very much like Sister Lucia, the seer from Fatima, with the miracle of the sun.
Oh, that's funny.
The sun was crashing toward
I wonder
the
if that's
earth.
on purpose.
I bet you it is.
Yeah.
I bet you it is.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I was like, all this keeps coming back to me, but this talk about the state-run thing reminds me a lot of the book. This book I just finished, The Brave New World.
Oh, that book's weird.
It is
it's
really
wacky.
weird.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
But
What's the name of the drug that they had to take to make them?
Soma.
Soma.
Yeah,
Soma's
it's
a drug.
Xanax.
It-
It's like Xanax.
Yeah, well, it kind of. So it
had to make
makes
you
you
feel
happy.
happy.
Yeah.
The whole time. They give it to the people to make them feel happy, so they can't experience what's going around them. If you think like, hey, I feel a little weird, or what's like, you get curiosities, like take Soma. Don't think about it. Don't worry about it. They banned book. You can't read books. You can't learn. The whole point. It kind of
Isn't that a lot like today?
That's the thing. I don't think it's too far from today. But 10 years ago, that would be like, that is out of this world.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way we could have gotten there. But it's like, that could be another 10 years.
Yeah, seriously. So me and Mike were listening to it on the car ride back from Audible, on the car ride back from Florida. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is now. Like, this is more close to now than like 1984 is close to now, and just like the cultural ideas.
Yeah.
And I mean, other than like babies being born in tubes, which hasn't happened live stream yet, but
Yeah.
just
It does. Okay, but it does. But okay.
well, I'm more talking like the social idea of it, like people being comfortable with, but the idea of like the birth control and the contraceptives, and all the
And you should
the
feel guilty about
the
having a
promiscuous
kid.
sex.
And if you do have a kid, then you'll be exiled from our community, and you have to go live on the reservation with the Indians.
and this was written in 1931.
Wow.
Published in
I
32.
didn't know that.
That's almost 100 years ago. 90 years ago.
It's kind of hard to get through because it's kind of dry, isn't it? It's just a lot of like world building.
Yeah.
But that's the best part, because even if you have no clue what the story is, because me and Mike, for a lot
It's
of people,
slightly
like,
hard to follow.
I don't know what these characters
I've reread on SparkNotes to get a good summary,
gotcha.
but so I got a good
But just
understanding.
the way it talks about what's happening in the people around them and stuff like that, you're like, you can listen to like 10 minutes in, 10 minutes out kind of thing. You're like, wow, this is really, really, it's weird, really weird, but it's really interesting.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, this sounds a lot like now.
And it's world state controlled.
Yeah.
No one can think for
it's
themselves.
interesting.
There's caste systems.
I'm honestly surprised they let you read that in school.
Well, it's under the band. It's under the banned list, and you have to explain why it's under the banned list. At the end of the
gotcha.
Yeah.
well, that assumes that the teacher actually read it.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
presuming something there.
Yeah,
There's a
that's
presumption.
also true.
The
Yeah.
teacher's like, yeah, that's
Brave New World, 1930s?
Pick one and do a
Classic.
report on it. Yeah.
But you hear what Mike just said? It's part of the banned books list.
We
And
got
so
a
he-
list of banned books, and we had
they're
to
not allowed to
read the banned books, and then
Explain why
and
it
then
was
explain
banned.
at the end if you agree it
So
should be
why
banned
is
or not.
50 Shades a great band? No, I'm just kidding.
That one's promoted.
Yeah.
Well, Jack, weren't you telling me that Pope Francis actually is encouraging a I don't know how to say this, but like a uniform, a globally uniform vaccine. In other words, it's not like, hey, go get the vaccine
For
from
coronavirus?
go get the vaccine from your local doctor, or each country is going to develop protocols. Didn't he do something that was much more kind of, you were talking about one state in Brave New World, it made me think of it. Is that right?
Yeah, so he publicly announced that he endorses universal vaccines, which basically means that instead of the vaccine coming from a country, it comes from what he's stating as the United Nations.
Wow.
So that it's a law what he's endorsing is that there's going to be a globalized law enforcement of these vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also I don't know if he's endorsing publicly, but he's what he's endorsing about the universal vaccine in the United Nations, the Bill Gates and Melinda Foundation is also endorsing the exact same thing he's endorsing. Now, what Bill Gates has been talking about for a very long time before COVID is that he's been talking about do an epidermal nano tracking of your medical history.
Yeah, the chip.
Yeah, on the right hand and the forehead.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. TaylorMarshall talked about that today. He's
Sign of the beast. Yeah.
So this may or not, but be that. I don't think that's it yet for the people who even know what I'm talking about. But what's this takeaway from prophecy in the biblical part? What's dangerous about a universal vaccine profile is that it inhibits you from, now you're in the power of whoever's controlling that vaccine, which is whoever's pretty much in the chamber of the UN. And if at some point in time, now a lot of people are saying, especially on the right, and this isn't a pressed down issue where if you say this you're crazy. A lot of conservatives are saying there's no way in hell I'm taking a vaccine for COVID. There's just absolutely no way. It's very well known for the entire Republican Party. Now, if there was a UN mandate to have a vaccine, and that if you don't get the vaccine and in your profile you show that you didn't have the vaccine, now you can be under the control of this UN, so to speak. We're just, in a realistic sense, we're say if we all decide we don't want to get the vaccine, we with our own free will, we choose.
I am not getting, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm not even getting the tattoo.
No.
No.
Well, so this is kind of the very scary part, because if this does happen in where we do get a universal vaccine, then the people who don't take it and who don't hop onto this epidermal system, however it's going to work, is now subjected to being exiled from the community, kind of like what you were talking about in that book. Just for example, let's just say the UN puts out that everyone has to get this vaccine, and let's just say we just don't decide to get the vaccine. And let's just say, Mike, you want to go to law school, and the law school, part of the regulation as a public school, it says you have to have the COVID vaccine in your profile, and you're like, well, I did not decide to have it. We're like, well, you can't go to law school.
That already happens, like with tetanus and stuff, right? Like you can't go to public school.
I was just what I wanted to talk about.
In the military, in sports, athletics. At school levels, public school, for all the way down to like elementary school, that is required to get these things.
Yes, this has already happened with polio. So this is why WHO exists, the World Health Organization. So I honestly don't think this is that crazy, other than the fact that, like, what's the legitimacy of a COVID vaccine? But this already happened with polio. We were doing literally exactly what you're talking about, and it's still done today. You can't go to a public school unless you have a polio vaccine. You can't go to Harvard Law unless you have a polio vaccine. And we were going around, the World Health Organization was going around the world, because we established the World Health Organization because of polio, to go around the world and to vaccinate every country and every person. We're still trying to do it to this day to get rid of polio. Now, I know polio is a lot worse than COVID, but I don't think it's that crazy. I mean, it's a slippery slope. And again, in terms of COVID and like how necessary is a vaccine with this, of course. But I don't think it's out of this world. Like, this has never happened before, and we're all getting chipped. Now, like, if we're getting epidurals, that's a different thing. But if it is just like, hey, we all need to take a universal vaccine, I don't think that's that crazy, because we've been doing that for a while.
For the safety of your neighbors and your community.
But for the chip, sure, but for the vaccine, that's pretty valid.
I agree with what you're saying. The promoted idea from the UN is that it is going to be something profiled on your body physically, whether it's the chip or an epidermal tattoo.
That's a mistake.
Of your entire medical profile. So it's not just an indication of your COVID vaccine. It can be your history of anything that you've been diagnosed in the past, and it's all going to be on a profile on your body somewhere.
So I wonder, though, if this will be legal in America because of our because of the oh my goodness, what's it called? I'm hungry and I'm kind of getting tired. The non-disclosure of medical records, unless if
HIPAA.
Yeah. So if you're gonna have a tattoo and anybody can develop a system to read your tattoo or your chip, I mean, I don't know if the American government would even allow that from happening, just because it'd be, and also you're infringing on everybody's freedom of, because it's one thing to like require a vaccine to use public schools, but I think it's another thing to require implanting a computer into your body to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
And I know it's prophesized. I know it's probably that's probably going to happen, but I do wonder how easy it will infiltrate America. Because I do think a lot of people go, hell no.
Yeah, that's the
hell no. You're not doing that to me, and you're gonna die before that happens.
Yep, and that's the consensus from a lot of conservatives. Yeah. And I think in this situation, I don't know what the time lapse is, but I mean, I would guess there's going to be something within the year from today, as far as like a projected end date on when they come out with a vaccine. I think it's going to come down who wins in the election, because if it's a Biden administration, I very easily can see those rights being imprinted or changed, and affected. If it's a Trump administration, I see him shutting the whole thing down. So it'll be interesting on who our administration. That's why I think the administration, a lot of people are seeing it's a pretty important election, because a lot of these things can happen that are going to be very different in a Trump administration versus a Biden administration. Yeah. So I think you're absolutely right on if we were in it right now, if there was an endorsed UN movement to have epidermal vaccine profiling on your person, I would believe the Trump administration would shut that down. But I would believe it happened, let's just say in February, and the Biden administration was elected. I could very easily see it being the opposite on them changing the law.
Yeah, I could see that too. And then but I would also see, as a result of that, so many Americans that would go, no. And then it would be like, well, wow, we don't have enough people in our schools. We're not getting enough funding anymore.
But to Mike's point about the
whole
charity.
thing, or the charity, even like to stay home or giving your guns, I think it may not be a switch they hit overnight of, hey, now you're getting this chip, but again, the build up again of, do it for other, however their ways work. Of you're gonna do this for the better,
for safety, for your own safety and the safety of others.
I understand the argument.
Trust the state, and we got the argument.
Yes,
and I see all the Californians and Seattle people doing it, but I can't see a single person in Texas going, I'm gonna let the government put a chip in my body.
Well, so this is
then that's the factions.
That's
more factions.
This is what I'm talking about. Yeah. This is what I was trying to say, is that if that happens, Biden gets elected, this all goes down, you're going to see it fracture so hard to where there's going to be like these like new co-opt public schools of like these non-chippers that are like
chippers and non-chippers.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah. They're like, it's like there's this game called Deus Ex, and it's basically in this world where in the future, dystopian kind of future, where like augment exists, like where you can like get like robot limbs and stuff like that. And there's these things called I can't remember what the two factions are, but basically the people that like refuse to get augmented and the people that don't, or that do get augmented, and they end up like getting called like two different like, races basically, and this giant racism war breaks out. And there's this game, one of the games in the series, called Mankind Divided, and it's like basically a giant faction war against the people that don't have augments and people that do have augments. Because people that don't have augments, like, you're not even humans anymore, you're insane. People that do have augments are like, no, this is like better humanity, you're insane because you're like preventing the progression of humanity and like the evolution of our culture and the species.
Unless the chippers use the power of the U.S. military or the federal government as a whole to deem the non-chippers as lepers. In the sense that these people are contagious. We don't know what they have. Stay away from them. If you see them, tell us, because your children are now at stake.
And you can see that with the mask.
That's already happening.
I was going to say.
That's already
HPV.
That's what I was saying, how quick
people are
very quickly.
in this neighborhood. People are calling the cops on each other because somebody's playing basketball during the lockdown. They're reporting their neighbor. And it's just, again, this is one of those things where I'm not saying it's the test run, but if it is a test run, you learn a lot. You learn a lot with something very, very low risk.
Yeah.
And where's the college station?
You guys are trying.
So then
you're starting to convert my mind here.
Yeah. Well, I don't know yet, but I can certainly see. I'm surprised by it, and I wouldn't have believed it before February, March.
No.
Would not have
before
believed it.
2020.
But I still see these like massive fragment groups forming. There's going to be like communes in Colorado and in like a lot of places around America where it's like these like non-ship sanctuaries where people are going to be like farming together and living together.
Yeah.
And, yeah, schooling their children. It's gonna be like these tribes of non-shippers.
We'll have technology that will have a dome over so they can't find us, but we're
all wearing tinfoil hats.
Or I guess
it works.
Or if you have a small thing of how much, like if it's a federal regulation, then it's like, then you get like imprisoned or not. You know, I don't know how much laws are going to be in the future.
Federal regulation, because I think there's enough Republicans in the House to go. Yeah, no way in hell.
Can that
I don't think so.
I was going to say, doesn't the Democrats?
Well, the federal regulations are actually done at the administrative level. They're not done in Congress. So the laws are made by Congress. So this is the Civics 101. Laws made by Congress, signed by the president, and then regulations are made under the APA, the Administrative Procedures Act, where agencies that are putting those laws into effect and are enforcing them or somehow putting them into effect have to come up with regulations specifically on how things will be done. So in other words, the law might say everybody will get chipped, but the HHS is going to say, well, how is that going to work? And who's going to get selected? And what are the exceptions and stuff like that? And then there's a notice and comment period and stuff like that. But you want to talk about quote unquote deep state. And I mean that in a more realistic sense. The administrative agencies are the folks that are there for their careers. Presidents come, administrations come, they go. But the folks that are there that know how to work the system, they're the ones that are going to be they're going to want to be there drafting the regs. Yeah. It's not going to be the secretary of HHS. They have reg drafters that do that. That's what they've been doing their whole life. They have lawyers that do that and they review it and bring it to there. So I don't know that I agree with you, Will, in the sense that no way, and there's too many Republicans. I'm not even sure that everybody who's a Republican is going to say no. I really don't. I think there's going to be some people that buy it, and it's not going to be down party lines. Right now, we say, we say things like Republican, the party. What we really mean is conservative, right? But that's easy in the Trump administration because that's pretty much paralleled. But that's not always the case with Republican presidents and Republican representatives. They're not that aligned with conservative ideals. Plenty of non-conservative Republicans before Trump came along.
Yeah, I just don't see it being a law. I can't see.
Well, I think it would come from the UN though.
But the UN doesn't have. They can't control what we do into our own people though. As far as like a law.
What about if our country is somehow weakened? If we're somehow weakened either by by war, natural disaster, plague, epidemic, and that we're now more reliant on other countries than we ever were before. We're pretty independent right now. We pay the UN, we pay the WHO.
We fund the UN. We are the UN.
We are. We fund everything. Yeah. But if we become actually the one that's more dependent, maybe we won't be able to afford it.
It's a really good point.
And things are changing so quickly. Again, 2020 is the year that keeps on giving. I would say, well, maybe in 50 years, 2050.
I agree. Maybe. It could be a year, and my total stance could be different. It could be 5 months, it could be a day.
Or you could be right. I don't know.
Yeah. No, and I don't think I'm going to be right because I know there's going to be something. There's going to be some weird event, just like COVID. This year alone has proved that
it'll be a variable that changes your analysis because that was an assumed variable.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Really, is that on the data I have right now, I can't see it, but of course it can change any day. But all I do know is I'm going to be in the mountains of Colorado, and with a lot of guns, a lot of food, and being self-reliant. And if somebody wants to come chip me, they can catch a 9.
That's a great place because when the caldera goes off, you'll be incinerated immediately. You don't have to worry about suffering.
Exactly. Got my scapular on. I'll be in a state of grace. Yeah.
I'm up.
I'm going home.
Going home. Yep. Yeah. Going home.
Yep.
Suckers.
See you on the new Earth, boys.
All right.
It was probably
late.
Wrap it up.
Yep.
It's
close to midnight.
Wow.
And people are so.
How long have we been going for?
2.5, 2:45, something like that. Hannah gave me the 2 hour.
240.
Almost 3 hours again.
All right, so that'll episode of that will end it. Excuse me, it's time. End it for this episode of the Manhire Show. We'll see you next time. Until then, I'm Dad,
Jack, Will,
and Mike,
and then Hannah on the board.
Hannah on the board. Take care. Bye.
Yeah.